Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal Podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Well, here we are. Hello, everybody. Gatekeepers, what is happening? Melissa, Vixen Doe, hi, sweetie. How you doing? Did I say hi to you last night? If not, hi twice tonight. Lindsay, good to see you, honey. Hope you're feeling good. How's that foot? It's got to be healed by now. If not, we got problems, right, babe? Amy, hi, honey. Bacon and love. Salvador, hello. I hear the Waggy Tails came in. There was a long fanged deer, was it not? Was it a what do you call that? Oh gosh, like a wolfen deer, you know what I mean? Like it's like part wolf, part deer, or something like that. Anyway, it was scary. They're in safe. Everybody's good. Everybody's in and dry and warm and safe. I hope you have your adult beverage. I hope you have a snack, some popcorn. I hear a rattlesnake in the bushes. Y'all hear that? I hear a rattlesnake. And it's Monday Madness, folks, on the Hot Mess Express. And I hope y'all enjoyed that. So those gifts, for those of you that do not know, and welcome in. Anne, hello. Glenn, hello. And I keep getting notifications as it cuts out my thing. Hello. And Melissa, it's wonderful to see you tonight again too. And thanks everybody that came in last night. So housekeeping real quick. I've got most of the emails. Ted, got yours, got everybody. The only one I need is Aunt Edna. Now, Aunt Edna, if you want, if you're here tonight, I haven't seen you yet. Echo, hello, how you doing? And I'm glad you like the videos. Thank you. So I'm going to explain in a second. But anyway, get back to the thing. If you donated last week, and again, thanks to Steve Stockton and Lynn Monet, two wonderful authors who took the time to put their stories and others together in wonderful books that I highly recommend. That if you donated last week, you got one. You all know the deal. I think I got everybody's emails now. I think we're all tidy. I sent them right over to Lynn. Unless you specified that you wanted to be to Steve's. So if you want to be on Steve's email, if you want me to send that to him, please let me know, Aunt Edna. Okay. And I think that takes care of that. So the videos, I hope you enjoyed them. Tonight's our last night for this wonderful gentleman right here. Before I bring in this rattlesnake, let him get settled. This wonderful man here, wait a second, let me go back here and do it right. Hot Mess Express. Here we go. I can do it. Cross your fingers. Here we go. This wonderful dude right here. This is a Akash Gandhi. And all the music that you heard last night, jungle, even that crazy kind of horror, old film noir horror stuff called The Dance of the U-Boat, I think it was called. I played it before and after last night's show, along with Jungle, which inspired me when I first heard it. Of course, I went to Africa. He took me to Africa. It's like that song, that the rains down in Africa, all that. I just saw these animals running and everything else. And that's what I do. I pick 3 songs, I listen to them, and what I see, I go looking for in gifts. And what I can't find in gifts, again, thank you to Pixabay and VidEasy. And this is also a lesson on what you can do for, people will allow you to do just to give them, of course, credit. And that's all they want. So tonight is the last night for this wonderful artist, composer out of India, Akash Gandhi, and wonderful composer that he is. You've been enjoying his music all weekend. And again, homage to art. Be creative. Thank you so much, Melissa, Nicole. I appreciate that, sweetheart. And all these wonderful mods. How about some wonderful bacon for all these wonderful mods? Always throwing down the links. We had a wonderful show last night. We're going to have a kick-ass show tonight. This man I'm going to bring on here. And I say stuff to him all the time, and we kid. But, last week and the week before that, and, every time I talk to him, convinces me more and more that there's some kind of an energy connection between us. So we get together. I'm not real sure how to wrangle it in, because sometimes we sling it and we knock icebergs into people without meaning to. We feel terrible about it. And we certainly have no intent in doing so. And then we aim it towards somebody else and don't get a lick of nothing. So we haven't quite figured it out yet, but that's what we're all here for, to try to figure this out together, to feel our way through this journey together. So last night was a phenomenal show for that. It was like next level paranormal. We were talking about all kinds of different things. Tonight we are reaching back, and I'm reaching back into the Wayback Machine with this old fella right here. And I can't think of anybody else I'd rather. It's just one of those kind of connections, and we always have a good time when we come in here, and I giggle and laugh all week when I find stuff I know is going to tickle him, and it's just cool, and being here with you guys too. It's a special time. So I just wanted to take a minute to take that in, because it's rare with all the stuff that's going on, where you can come into a place and actually feel better when you're leaving an hour and a half later than when you came in. And if we can do that, wow. And the art and the music and these composers and these artists that make these gifts, the funny gifts and the Renaissance, again, that's harkening back to somebody we featured 2 weeks ago. It's just amazing. And, the people are blind and using software and doing this. So if that's not an inspiration to get out there and do and keep your lights on, I don't know what is. So let's get this rattlesnake in here. My friend, Steve Stockton. Can I say more?
Hey, Mama Gum speaks the truth.
Speaking the truth here on Journey Through the Gate, folks. How you doing, sweetheart?
I am doing great. I'm modeling my new fur coat that Amy sent me.
I love it. Look at this.
I think it's mink, and I've got a little beret on. See, it's got the
little peaky blinders going on there. Little peaky blinders by order. The peaky blinders.
And then I'm the secret agent too, because I'm actually repping the Piggly Wiggly power. Self-service brought to you.
Golly. As Andy Griffith would say.
It's almost like a raccoon skin coat. Remember back in the 20s when where the raccoons? I mean, I know you don't remember.
Isn't it terrible though? I mean, because I can remember when I was a kid, Steve, the big thing. Look back in the Hollywood. Everybody had a mink stole. Everybody had the long fox coat. They wore the damnedest things. They had the beaver stuff. Look back and go back before Barbara Stanwyck, before back in the day. And all of these chicks were running around. They had dead animals hanging around their neck and thought that they were, I mean, and you didn't think anything of it. I mean, everybody, my mom and all of her, friends and the people, professionals and otherwise, all wore stuff like that. Mink stoles and fox coats. And, well, if you were lucky enough. What are you doing? What are you fidgety about? I like your beret. I like your beret. You got a little red Corvette to go with that?
Now that was only if it's a purple raspberry beret. We can talk about Prince because he's already.
Is he okay? No, he's passed.
He's gone. Yeah. So
I hesitate, my friend.
We can talk about him.
I hesitate. Everybody, we're talking about tonight. I believe we're good. So. Basically, I thought we'd reach back, Steve. There's so much you're hearing right now in the news. It's Tic Tacs and WAPs and UFOs and oh my God! You tell me you got a telephone in there,
that's the hotline.
Is that the bat phone? Is it a red one? Does it flash?
Commissioner Gordon needs to talk.
Is it underneath a glass dome? You have to
actually,
pick it up?
Somebody in there said I look like a Bond villain. So
a Bond villain. Please no.
I probably look like a lunatic with a fur bathrobe and a beret. So
stop. Do not. He who shall not be named. He should. We don't talk about the 00.
I can't get the beret to look right with the headphones.
I like it.
Can I get one? I wonder if I can get one that's got the headphones sewn into it.
Where's your? I miss the blue and the purple light though. Where's she at? I like that one. You look so good in a purple haze.
Sorry, you look like a little dark. I look better with the dark. I can change it. Let's see. There we
go. Oh, I like that one. That one washed you out just a titch. Do you got another one? Do you got a darker dial on that one?
I put some red over here. Now it's a little dark.
Now you just look angry. You look like you got high blood pressure now.
I can do the purple.
Or you're just blushing. No, no, you went a little. No, you went kind of. No.
Which direction?
No. I like the purple. Purple and the blue. Get up into the blues and the purples. That made you look like, okay.
It's like that kind of.
Yeah. It's a little bit like a DJ, like a DJ back in the day. Now
I need something else on this one there.
That's nice. That's
nice.
A
half blue and half pinkish red.
Yep. All right. Okay.
Look kind of like I'm in my lair here with my
Melissa says sets the mood.
Mink bathrobe.
Amy says it's mysterious. Not real fur. This is what I'm saying, though, Amy. But back then it was.
It is real fur.
I guess you can harken all the way down to fur traders. Fur traders back in the day.
She told me she skinned the minks herself.
And people did. Why do you think they come in? They killed all the buffalo, right? And I'm not saying this to you specifically. I'm just off the top of my head because I'm a nutter.
I've never killed a nutter.
Strap in because I'm a nutter with a microphone. So anything's liable to happen, right, Steve? We've seen it happen. I've seen me do it.
Beware of icebergs.
But yeah, and if you think just a fur trade, they came and killed all the buffalo so they can send because everybody in they were shipping to in the other countries thought it was quaint and cool and had to have something from the old West and had to have the buffalo rugs and the bedspreads and they had the coats and the beaver hats. That was all the rage. And then they started with the minks and the fox tail coats. And
there's a tail that was still in the pocket. I'm telling you.
Oh my God, Steve!
Mink. That was in the pocket.
Oh my God!
It looks like a tail.
Put that down. Put that down.
I'm gonna put it back in the pocket.
No animals were hurt during the filming of this podcast. I assure you. I don't need to hear for PETA, or I don't want to open my door and get somebody throw some red paint on me. I pity the fool.
Yeah, don't put red paint on.
You don't want to be.
Fur bathrobe, or I'll put some red paint on you.
I'm old, and I have totally forgotten where I kept all my fucks that I got left to give.
Glowing.
That's nice though, Steve. It's nice. It sets a nice mood, I think, for tonight's theme.
It may be a little dark on this side or one side. Look at that, my hands.
I'm not hearing any voices tonight. Are we going to get voices tonight? Have you cleared that up? Have you cleaned that up? Did you get through? You'd let it roll, huh?
Motor bark.
Living on the edge.
They were here before I got here, I think.
We're going to have to get together. Maybe this week we'll get together and get in there and just clean it over the phone, and we'll just handle it. Zipper that thing up because, you don't want to leave that just, willy-nilly. It's like having a revolving door or whatever. And some of these things that we're going to talk about tonight might come through the door. So, anyhow, this is the thing. This is what kicked me off. You never know what's going to set me going. And I'll tell Steve. I said, "This is what we're doing. What do you think?"
Question from the chat, real quick. Catheta, this was in the pocket. I think it's a mink tail. I don't know. I just found it.
That isn't a mink tail. It's a big old thing of lint.
It's one half of my
don't put it in your face.
It's one half of my French mustache for.
Well, somebody lost it.
Don't want to put it in the middle. That's maybe it's.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
It's an eyebrow.
But what the hell are we talking about tonight?
UFOs.
UFOs.
Oh no, the mink tail broke.
So because Steve, if you don't know and you live in a box, I've got this here for Steve here. We have a running one on him if I can find it. Here we go, right here. And he's missing person and Mr. I can never get it right. Missing persons mysteries. And listen to me. He's read so many stories about missing people, and many times we've had this discussion about things in the woods, about portals, about UFOs, big feet, the whole shebang, soup to nuts, stem to stern. Am I right, Mr. Stockton?
Indeed.
Absolutely, and ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Then, we've known quite a few people being in this field together, and likewise, I'm sure that in every direction, known people that have also have deep interests in this subject, not to mention the unfortunate families and those affected by the missing people, because what a horrific thing to have a loved one go missing, especially a child or an elder,
and to not have that closure ever. Yeah, that's not
closure.
Knowing.
And the weirdest of
you don't have
shit
memorial,
happening.
You don't have a grave to go to. You don't have the ashes and urn. You've got nothing.
Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. So intriguing. And many of us in the chat tonight and, watching the show tonight also interested, because of the mystery and because their hearts just break thinking about it, because God forbid, if it was somebody you knew. So there's that. And all of us have had some close calls as well that we can, that kind of helps that along with that fear along a little bit, because Lord knows if you ever been a parent, lost a kid, I don't care if you lost 5 minutes in Walmart.
Lost him in the store. Yeah. My mom would hurry to the car when I got lost, but I'd always catch her.
Oh, it's just, but you can't describe it. And then, if it lingers, and it goes on for days, hours, and then into days, and time just stops, and it's just horrific. So, of course, we're all interested now. David Paulides is one who has focused, if you don't know, has focused on clusters of these types of missing things, and slowly over time has just now seems to have opened up to the possibilities of, and of course, I can't speak for him. I don't know the dude. I know he's been around a while. I certainly know his background. All I'm saying is this, that in his cases, he took them, they went to clusters, then they added in again these similarities, what was it, German blood, and weird things happening, like dogs not being able to catch a scent, not a point of separation where at one point in time they were with somebody, but I gotta pee, like the number one thing, like even if you have a buddy, you walk away from him if you're gonna pee, just all these little things. Well, he had, many books and a couple of movies. So the new movie, he's opened up his mind and said, okay, now I'll say possible UFO connection, possible Bigfoot connection. No offense to Mr. Paulides, but us schmucks have been saying that behind the scenes for 20, 30 years.
He had the Bigfoot idea years ago. He had the Hoopa Project, and now it's UFOs. So I don't know.
But again,
portals. He was on portals for a while, and then the UFOs. So,
and again, who knows?
I think it's all the above.
I'm right there with you.
I've narrated hundreds and hundreds of these cases, and people ask me, is it serial killers? Is it big cats? Is it UFOs? Is it portals? Is it Dogman, Bigfoot,
government,
time slips, UFOs, aliens, government? Yes. The answer is yes. It's all the above.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say, if you haven't tried this, it's actually pretty good. It's the new Coca-Cola Move.
Blueberry flavored?
No, it's got kind of a coconut finish.
Oh, wow.
And
it's got a nice ambiance.
It's called Move, and I asked the girl, I said, it's not a laxative, is it? And she said, no, I don't think so. So
has it got a nice smell? Does it got a coconutty smell?
It has a coconut
a little
finish.
Rum? We'd just finish it right off, wouldn't it?
Some rum would be good in this. And maybe a little Captain Morgan. There's a little Captain in everybody, but especially
oh my goodness. Yep. Captain Morgan makes you lean on things with your foot. It's just that just one shot and that's it. Hey, are you kidding me? Welcome in. So anyway, that's what. So to get back to the whole thing, so he's stimulate. I think I saw pancakes in here too. And again, thank you, Echo, and everybody who liked those videos. And again, I do them because it's my homage to art and anything to stay in the light, anything I can throw out there to give you guys an idea. For God's sake, if you do music, Geezo Pete's, put it out there to YouTube Audio Library and 10,000 other different places you can put your music out. Get your art out there, paint, do whatever. But, be creative. So, he's got a new movie again, like I said, the UFO connection. And there's a guy I think he tickles me. Again, like so many of these people, I take them. Again, I can discern. I don't have to agree with everything they say. Rare is the bird that I'm going to agree with everything, or anybody else agree with what I say or think. I don't expect to. So John D'Souza was in the FBI for multiple decades, retired there. And he is the guy, if you guys are familiar, that he was the paranormal investigator. He was on that group in the FBI that went out and investigated the UFO cases, the missing persons, the ghost stuff, the satanic things. And there is that branch in the FBI, and he was part of it. And the funny thing is when X-Files came out, there was a great similarity to some real cases, to the point of, this was after he retired, by the way, to the point of it got to where his producer, I believe, or the writer of the show, or maybe he was both, he had several different hats, I don't know, and he got called in, by some higher ups that said, listen, you got to stop this, you got to stop putting these cases out there. And it got to be a heated back and forth of, what do you mean we got to pull a whole season of the show? The X-Files got pretty popular pretty quick, right? And so the producer got, cheeky monkey that he was, leaned in and said, if you'll just tell me which of the episodes are real, we'll pull them.
Now that's a gambit right there.
I know. And the dude wouldn't do it. He said, it's okay, just leave them. They wouldn't cop to what was real. So again, people understand that these things happen when they say it's not happening. I will tell you this, the government is never going to agree something is real if they can't control it. They're never going to admit something is real if they can't control it. And there are certain things out there, there's always a bigger fish, you know what I'm saying? So the thing is this is a new movie, and John D'Souza is in it. And say what you want about John, if you know him, I'd say listen to what he has to say and run it through your filters, because there's some information in there, I would say. Okay. And so he's in the movie, and he's leaning on, yes, I have been on cases that these things have happened and they get sent to a department and they disappear. We don't. So again, what you may be hearing now.
Book.
Exactly. That's one of them. Name the project, from Philadelphia Experiment to Operation Paperclip to Project Blue Book, Blue Beam, Bluebird, Mockingbird, you name it. We go all night. Northwoods, Southwoods, it's insanity. And here we are, just these poor little pitiful folk trying to go to work and pay our daggum bills and just keep our heads down and go, what are they going to throw at us next? If it's not trains derailing and chemicals being thrown at these poor people, it's tornadoes, it's a hurricane, it's a damn
food processing
cyclone.
Plants on fire.
God bless the people in New Zealand got hit with was it a cyclone or
I think so.
Horrible tornadoes and earthquakes in Turkey and holy mackerel, Geezo Pete's hit the brakes, right? Now there's aliens coming to get you. We've had people on this podcast been abducted. Our good friend Steve carried through a wall, Steve, and saw the cables and the pipes and the things as he went through the wall, and was cold when he hit the outside air. Incredible stories. So I have no reason to disbelieve any of this. But I'm bringing it up because in this movie, whoever wrote it or directed it, I don't know whether it was John or Pilatus or both of them together. I don't know, but it's a 411. They bring up an old case, and one that you may be familiar with. And it's the case of Carl Higdon. Now, I sent Steve some pictures, and I don't know whether you recalled it or not, Steve. There's so many cases. But it was 1974, goes way back. But again, we reach back in history to try to say, where are we now? Do we know anything different? But I watched it in this movie that just came out. Now, I recommend the movie. Watch it. It's very good. It's very informative, and you'll love it if you like the subject. So I looked back at the case, and Steve, I remembered that we did it when we did abductions about a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. But we grazed over it, and we didn't really focus on the case. Digging into it, as you know I do, once I get a rabbit hole, I get a shovel and I keep digging until I hit China. So I dug into this. Now, the interesting thing is this. First of all, I love this man. Here's a man that was an oil rig dude, just simple all-American man, trying to feed his family, trying to go to work. And he's working on the oil rigs, and he keeps getting promoted and goes through. And back then in the 70s, early 70s, when he was, I think he was in his early 30s, late 20s, married a girl, kid after kid after kid after kid, just hardworking and a good, tight family, right? And he gets abducted. Now, his story has not changed from 1974 to here just recently when he was interviewed yet again for this new movie about the missing 411, missing whatever, the UFO connection. So I find it very interesting to reach out and let's look a little bit at this case and understand that for all this time, all these decades, he has not changed. Here's a man, how many times have we said it, Steve? Father, small town, works with his buddies. As a man, going to work and having to deal with that, would you out of the blue for no reason bring up a story like this to be heckled at the locker, at the coffee
maybe
counter?
Lose your job, your livelihood, be ostracized in your town.
That's what I'm saying. You've got children, Dad, they're making fun of me at school. What'd you bring that up for? Dad, why would you lie about such a thing? He's sitting down at the counter at the Kretschke's on the stool having his coffee and his BLT and trying to have his lunch or whatever. This hardworking oil dude, I keep saying that, but God, you're wearing a hard hat and you're out there and you're working with oil. You putting in a day, probably 5 days, 6 days out of a week. That's good old Americana we're talking about here with kids, moms at home. This is their story. 1974 to now, at the very least. Now, I could not find out whether or not he has passed, but he was, bless his heart, giving interviews for this movie in 2022. Even if they recorded early, it was 21. So I snatched a little piece of video from a couple of these cases. Now, another case we want to touch base on, and there's a reason for both of them, is the I love saying this, Pascagoula abduction. And that was in 1973. And you guys will recall this one. I've also got a snippet of that little video of the guys it happened to. One of them was elk hunters. The other ones were fishermen. But again, right up until when this was taken in 1973, 74, 75, they were still having interviews done, to just last year or the year before, and given the same story and never changed and got through their whole lives with it, Steve. I think that's impactful.
Yeah.
It's
like Travis Walton, the whole fire in the sky thing. I've seen him give his talk. He is either the most accomplished liar on the planet and deserves an Academy Award, or he is telling the truth about what he saw. He's that convincing. I mean, he had tears in his eyes and stuff when he's telling that story.
Yeah.
You could see the PTSD in the man. He was reliving that moment when he's describing it, that night or days. I think he was gone for a couple of days.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was 3 to 5, something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But absolutely true. So The Pascagoula abduction in 1973 was Parker and Hickton, and Carl Higdon was in 1974 in Wyoming. So thank you, sweetie. Thank you, Echo.
And there was a big
So,
UFO flap at that time, 73.
oh my
That
gosh.
year in particular, that was the most UFO activity there had been up to that point since
Right.
the initial first wave began in the 40s and 50s. And I remember when that
Okay.
Pascagoula case happened,
Yep.
I'd fallen asleep on the couch just for a few minutes, and my mom and dad were watching news, and my dad woke me up and told me, like, Steve, there was a guy that was abducted by UFO, and they talked about a thing that had like an eyeball or something came out, and
Yeah, it was
looked
like a
at him. And,
one-eyed, a
yeah,
one-eyed dude. I've got a couple of the pictures and I've got a couple of the other things, but there are things in this case, this last one, and this is kind of like the rest of this. It was like that old who was the rest of the story, Paul Harvey.
oh,
I'm going to tell you
Harvey.
the rest of the story in the beginning.
Hello,
In the
Americans.
Pascagoula, in the Pascagoula, it's good with more honey. The harder it's going to be able to say Pascagoula and tell them what we're going to wind up with in the end. But again, the story has not changed, and witnesses have come out that saw the same thing they saw. What Steve just described as the one-eyed, tall, pointy thing. You'll see the picture. But did not want to say because these men have been so ridiculed by, once it got out from the sheriff on through the town, didn't want to come up with the witness statements then, but there was a young couple at, I guess, like the Mulholland Falls or something out there necking, and they saw the whole thing and saw the creatures as well. Now, that's another thing. This creature in the 73 in the Pascagoula is very odd looking. And the one in the 1974, completely different. And it also says that, there was for all you Star Trek people out there, there was a Star Trek, I guess, alien, I guess that's what they called him. But that looked similar. It had the little feelers on its head and shit like that. I can't remember the name. I'm not a Trekkie. So, but anyway, there's always an excuse and whatever. I look at the men and say, why would these guys out of nowhere make it up? They're not making any money. They're being ridiculed. As Steve said, they're putting their jobs on their line, their family on their line, their reputations, which meant everything back then, especially to a hardworking family man, it meant everything. So you have to take that into consideration. And why am I doing this now? One, because of the movie. I want you to know a little bit about Carl Higdon. I want to give him the respect he deserves. As far as I'm concerned, you have to discern for yourself and decide for yourself. But I think he deserves respect in the fact that he just kept being himself. And if you see him in this movie, Steve, God bless him, he's up there, still speaking, as it is, just matter of factly. And I don't know. Well, we'll watch this. If you guys are ready, we'll watch this little one. Now, the first one is about 10 minutes, and this is the Pascagoula. But also, before this show ends, I want to talk a little bit about why are we in the spot we're in? How long has people known about this? Because again, we're way past does anything exist? We can argue and talk about, are they extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals, or from other planets? Yes, as Steve says, all the above. Why limit it?
And look at that comment that
And
Echo
among us,
put in there.
and among us. Which one?
73, they took the dollar away, lots of UFOs. 2023, they take the dollar away, lots of UFOs. 50 years since that 73 flap. Where are we at now? All of a sudden, the skies are full of UFOs again.
Here comes the funny, honey. Yep. What are we saying here? Here in England, you check out the.
That's a
Yeah.
fabulous
That is. Yeah.
Multiple witnesses
Air Force
crashed
Base,
in a forest. They tried to
There's
cover
so
it up,
many.
apparently.
And how does that connect into things today? What are you hearing about a lot today? And they're even trying to change it to the UAP to change the narrative. Now, why are they trying to change the narrative? What's going on? Why is there more of this being seen or that being seen? You have to be able to discern for yourself. Is it Again, I tell you that in 1962-63, they had the capability, okay, to show the Madonna, and I mean the Madonna, not the hussy that shaking her stuff on whatever. You know what I'm saying?
She's like a grandma now.
Yeah,
Cover
she is.
that up.
She got the grill. She's got
Did we
the
just
surgery and the
did we
oh my
just
God.
doom her? Did we just doom her?
You know,
Sorry, Madonna.
there's a time where you should just stop and just let your reputation be whatever it was. Stop. You know,
Although Stevie Nicks still performing, still singing.
well,
I think
she's
she's
still
like
got some class, I think.
74, and
Yeah.
she still looks good.
Yeah.
I'd be her
Yeah.
lapdog. Sorry, Tiger Lily.
Yeah, but see, yeah, but sometimes it's embarrassing. You know, people should know, but
Yeah,
they just
Madonna
hang
needs to
on a little
have a
too long.
seat. I'm
Hey,
sorry if you're
Monica.
a Madonna fan, but she was something
Nothing
back in the
against her,
80s, but that was 40 something years ago,
at
people.
some point it just gets embarrassing, you know. And the plastic surgery. So what did we say about Cher that time? She has one more facelift. She's going to have a goatee.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Also, before the night ends, I want to talk about why are we in this spot? Has people that we've either elected or not elected, or chose to speak for us or not chose to speak for us, made
Echo,
treaties
she
and
is, but
deals.
she didn't used to be.
Oh, and made deals with these people behind our backs. Now, I don't know if anybody else here has known. Steve and I've talked about it before. Have you heard the rumor about Eisenhower sitting down and writing a treaty with alien ambassadors so that for in exchange for technology that they could come and basically grab us and bag us and tag us just like dolphins in the ocean, like we do to things, and tag them and let them go, just the same. And how do you feel about that?
If you knew this, if you're going to bring it up, but Eisenhower's great granddaughter, I can't remember what her name is. She has a YouTube channel. She writes Laura
Magdalene.
She had said
Eisenhower.
publicly that it was a well known among the family, and that they would talk about the treaty that her great grandfather made with the aliens. That
it's no
it wasn't
secret,
hidden among the family.
Right. And I want you guys to know that now. I want it fresh in your minds because there's so much going on right now. I mean, think about it. When you hear everybody saying, and this is mostly for our American people because it's different. If you get newspapers and you read a newspaper from different countries and stuff like that, you see such a difference than what we're hearing now. But you got to figure out what is the narrative that people are trying to drive. It's called I had to write it down, neurolinguistic manipulation. So why are they repeating something over and over? Neurolinguistic manipulation. Why are they repeating it? Why are they changing it from UFO to UAP? Why are they trying to switch? Why are you starting to hear about all this stuff? Remember what now listen, this old bastard, say what you want to say. I'm going to tell you, Mom Gum speaks the truth. I have no reason to lie. I'm too close to the edge of the cliff, man, to start lying now. Werner von Braun, part of Operation Paperclip, you took him away from the factories. He basically stood at the factories, went up to a certain group of people, handpicked them, and when you went into that factory, you walked in, you were carried out because you were worked to death. And he pointed a finger, and they gave him a house and a credit card and a name and wards and a space museum. And on just about close to his deathbed, it wasn't on his deathbed, but in 1976, he confided to his secretary, all this is documented, you can go look for yourself. Okay, look it up, research, don't believe me. Search it yourself, and told his secretary they are going to try the last big thing.
I just heard a voice.
I did too. A fake alien invasion. Listen to what I said. Understand this. Yes, fear is one. Yes, absolutely. But, yep, I heard it, Steve. And the time on that is 49:35. We go back and listen. But that's it. Fake alien invasion. But here's the kicker. Okay. The aliens might be fake. The invasion and the other stuff would be. So you have to think about that, and you have to listen, because the more you know, the more you know, the more you can discern this big basket of yarn. So let's look back at these cases and see what today we can learn about. One, it was all covered up. How many cases do we need, Steve? We say this about Bigfoot, about ghosts, about haunted houses, about leprechauns, for Pete's sake, cryptids.
Yeah.
How many? Till we just stop asking, does it exist, and say, so now what do we do about it?
Is that better, Ted? I can move it back, or
Ted's
I can
saying
turn it
there's a lot
down
of
a little
gain.
bit. How about that?
How's my 10 and my 5.5? I can never tell. When I touch it, I wind up muting it and messing it up. So
I can hear myself, but just barely. So is that okay?
Monica's
now,
saying congratulations. Did you win something?
Yeah, I won 19 days tobacco free today.
Oh, did you really? Oh, fantastic. Here I am smoking a cigarette. I'll buy you a beer. I'll drink it for you, Steve.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way to
That's
do it.
how much I love you.
Got my vape here. It's got
strong.
just a little bit of nicotine. The rest is
Keeping
0
you strong.
milligram vape juice. So I'm all good.
Well, this is the deal. That's where I was going to take y'all tonight and let you know, listen, these deals have been made in your name. And one of the big things, and again, what Steve is saying is absolutely true about Miss Eisenhower. And you can watch her podcast. She does a lot of great stuff. She's a very herbal healer. She does a lot of other things. Astrology is her thing, and multiple other things. Very smart. What's Blue saying? UFO puts a physical object, aliens. UAP puts it into your mind as a phenomena, and it's just in your head. Oh, there you go. Yep, they're 100% correct. Yep. So that's all part of it. Pay attention to what you see now, and think to yourself while you're watching it. If somebody went in, say you were working in some corporate, job, say you're working at Walmart, and of course you've got your chain of command in there from your managers, if that's what you want to call it, and your team leader, whoever, and without you knowing it, they've made decisions about what you're going to do that change your life, that could mean your life, and you had nothing to say about it. If what we're saying tonight is true, that happened. And is happening now. And now we've got everybody on board. It took long enough, 30 years as far as I'm concerned. Steve, I know about the same, if not longer for you, on these missing people in the woods, in these national forests, the ones that you can hear on their cell phone when they're talking to somebody and get pulled up with a wind, Steve. You and I have talked about this. Cell phone gets dropped from high atop the thing, and you can hear the recording of him being pulled away. You've got numerous accounts of people just disappearing, turning around and gone. Poof. So what is it? Could this be true? I personally believe it is. Steve, about 10 minutes. If Mulder, did Mulder quit smoking as well, or is he on the vape as well?
He's still going through the butts out there in the ashtray.
Got to get the poor dog a fresh pack of cigarettes. We American spirits.
He can have a hit off my vape.
Dark Side of the Moon, Steve, 1973, brother, 50 years ago. Pink Floyd in the House, mind-blowing album.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. The Grape, absolutely is. Oh gosh, absolutely. From the thing where you can do with the Oz to looking back over time. I mean, seeing that T-shirt all through high school and all my life.
When I worked for Nickelodeon in Florida, I was a stage manager there. John Glenn came and visited one day, and he had his grandson with him. And I shook his hand. It was in the employee dining room, and I guess he thought he knew I worked there because I had on a name tag, but he asked me for a bottle of ketchup. Hey. So I found him a bottle of ketchup. I mean, it's John Glenn. But his grandson was there with him, and he was wearing a Dark Side of the Moon T-shirt. I thought that was kind of ironic.
I'm tracking you, Kathy. I got you now, honey. Yep, 100%. Yep. Well, that's the thing. Knowledge is power. We're talking about it tonight. We're kind of looking in the back door, kind of looking in the windows a little bit. We're talking on the back porch a little bit about it, but we're putting the information out there because I want you guys to be informed and fresh in the front of your mind that when you see stuff, you can discern it. Because I've heard that some stuff behind the scenes that some of these things are being taken down, and when they open up and find out there's not little green men in it, that it's just somebody else is behind it. There's going to be some so there's going to be some fur flying. Let's put it that way. So let's look at this. It's about 10 minutes long, and I think you're going to dig it. This is the Pascagoula abduction, 1973.
I think it's getting easier with the funny honey.
I was 10.
Yeah, like I said, I was
I'm trying.
10. I remember that. I was born in 63.
Yeah.
And that whole summer, the skies were full. Even my parents, we would go up to my brother and his family's house. They lived up on top of a big hill. We would go up there on nights and sit out there well into the night, almost till midnight. And we saw all kinds of stuff, colored lights, things that didn't make any sense. Yeah. My brother heard something that sounded like touch tones flying over the house, and nobody had a touch tone phone at that time. Wasn't until years ago that he realized what he had heard.
Lots of sounds and things like that, Steve. You know, and again, like in these woods, you think about it. Watching that movie again, I went back and watched The Hunted and a couple other ones, and of course, all your videos and stuff. And this last one with the what's his name, lost just here in January. The actor, I forget.
Julian Sands.
I keep wanting to say Jeremy
Irons. I made a video about him and other disappearances on Mount Baldy.
I know. It's very good.
That's a weird place.
It's very good. And I'm watching this about the crazies, and I'm watching about this guy. You know, explain to me why. I mean, I think there must be something going on with the mind. You know, I mean, if we just put in the fact that, you know, when this is happening to you, that you can't fathom it. We were talking about it last night. It's not all physical. You know, John D'Souza in this movie and others also tells you it's not all physical. That's where we start losing it, when we start trying to make them physical, because they can be, but not all the time. And I think that's also true about Bigfoot. And I think it's very true about some ghosts and entities. If there's so many similarities here, if you just realize it's all connected, it all kind of snaps together a little bit and it becomes clearer. And looking at these cases that these people have never changed their story for decades, it means something. So here we go. Let's shoot the moon here. Pascagoula abduction. Look at me go.
Roll that beautiful vein footage, Cisco.
Here we go. Look at these guys, Steve. This is what they look like with the horns and the one eye. Mm-hmm. Trippy.
Mississippi town of Pascagoula, two local men confronted authorities with a rather bizarre story. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker told of a strange craft landing near their fishing site and of being taken aboard by three unearthly creatures. The two men were questioned under hypnosis and lie detectors, but their story remained intact. One of the men suffered a nervous breakdown and is still under treatment. Among the skeptics were Ralph and Judy Blum, already at work on a UFO book. With W5 last week, Ralph and Judy returned to Pascagoula.
Judy and I stumbled into this book. It came to us to be written. Suddenly we were in a wave of waves. UFOs were being seen across the country again. We were in what they call a flap. And people began experiencing things that they couldn't explain. Something was happening in our skies in the midst of Watergate, Agnew, the energy crisis, the Middle East. Something was happening and people couldn't understand what it was. We spoke about UFOs, but nobody really knew. And then it hit right here where we are. It hit Pascagoula. Charlie Hickson entered the news, and we had a book to write.
Something happened October of '73 that would go down in history.
I can't believe I got to keep this song. What a treat. Am I wrong? We're having a good time, as Dusty Slay would say.
They say what they saw was the real. They know they were the ones that saw the Pascagoula UFO.
We were sitting on the other side of the pier with our feet, you know, over toward the river, fishing in the river. And the fish still wasn't biting, so I told Calvin, I said, well, you know, we might as well go home. But I guess that was when I heard it. It was some kind of zipping sound. And when I turned around in this area out here, about 40 or 50 feet out there, there was some kind of craft, you know. It looked like it was going to come right onto the ground. But it came on down and hovered about a foot and a half or 2 feet off of the ground. We didn't know what to do, you know. The river behind us and that out there, not knowing what it was. So, and then before we had time to really do anything, it seemed like an opening appeared. Toward the end, it was, you know, toward us. And the blue light, it had blue flashing lights as it was, you know, approaching the ground, but then they went out. And when the opening appeared, some source of light came from the inside. It was just almost blinding.
Sheriff Diamond, can you tell me just what happened that night?
No, sir, I can't. All I can tell you is there was 2 men came into the sheriff's department approximately 8:30 and 9 o'clock. They were all excited, upset, wanting to climb the walls, hysterical, crying. That's actually all I know is what happened. I mean, as far as me seeing what happened, I don't know.
Of course, we could see them in the opening coming from, you know, when it started out to craft. But
Did you think it was people coming out at first?
Well, they had I kind of thought it was people at first, you know, off like that. But of course, when they appeared there in front of me, it was the most shock I've ever had in my life.
What did you see?
Well, they were shorter than me. I'd say about 5'2" or 3", and they didn't have a neck. Their head, it seemed to come directly to their shoulders, and they had something it came out to a point about where a nose would be. And on each side, the ears. And I believe that they looked like they were a little longer on the ears than the nose.
But still pointed the ears.
They were still pointing, yes.
But since I was down there, and since I was a physician and several other scientists and investigators were asked to consult and look into the situation, I was asked would I mind if I would be present, and I said I wouldn't mind at all. And while it is still very difficult for us to believe that a spaceship landed and that robot-type creatures came out and actually took these 2 people into the spaceship, these men, in my opinion, believed that they saw this and that they were being honest in reporting what they have reported.
But it seemed to me when they came out that doorway, or that opening or whatever it was, then just almost instantly they were right there on us. And their arms, they had arms, and I saw the arms moving here and in the shoulders. But they had weld. I mean, their fingers were weld, and then they had something like a thumb, and they were like this.
Mm-hmm. We questioned them at length, and then we left the room and recorded all the conversation they had.
Johnson, you're fired. Why? It's not you.
Recorded between the 2 of them.
Sorry about that. Whoa.
One of them kept wanting to pray. And he said, after all I went through on this earth, he said, why should I have to see something like this?
Calvin Parker, I was questioning him, and at one time he wanted to climb the...
Can you imagine being questioned by these guys? I mean, no offense, but think about it. Again, you are these 2 guys. You have to live in this town. You're going to do this, but you're lying. To what end? Do you see what I'm saying? And you got to go talk to these guys who are all, well, I don't believe it, but, you know, they passed the polygraph test. You know, and 3 or 4 of them, they did the same thing to Travis Walton. They did the same thing to Benny and Barney Hill. How many others? How many tests do you need? Something's going on. You know? Now, did they set us up and say that, hey, you can do this? You know, like dolphins, they follow bloodlines, they follow families. A lot of these people will tell you. And somebody said it was okay. Is that possible? Think about that. That's all I want you to do is think about that. It's crazy, right?
wall. I saw how nervous and how shook up he was.
They had me one on this arm like this, and on the other one, you know, they had my other arm like that. And I just seemed to lift up to the same height they were off the ground, and we just moved into the crack.
Now inside, how did they lay you out? Do you remember how it happened?
Yes. I didn't see any tables or chairs or anything in there. I'm not saying it wasn't in there because the light was almost blinding, but I didn't see any. And when they carried me inside, they seemed to just lean me back, you know. And this eye, well, I keep referring to it as an eye, and it moved up in front of me about this close. And it started right at my eyes, looking me right in the eye. And it hesitated there for a few seconds, and it just started moving over my entire body. When they brought me from the craft along this area here, and they didn't drop me, you know, they just released me back to the ground. And I fell. I don't know why my legs were weak. I don't know why it was the fright or what it was, but I fell onto the ground.
I'm going to stop it there and say that again in this movie, you know, believe the researcher or not, many of these cases, and I'm sure Steve can back me up on this, multiple people that are returned or at least found involved in these feel like they have been dropped from out of nowhere. And in many cases, dropped miles from where they were picked up. And if I'm not mistaken, in the Travis Walton case as well, he was a couple of miles away. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I believe and he was you know, naked and dumped off in the middle of nowhere, wasn't he? Miles away from, he knew where he was or figured it out outside of an old diner or something, wasn't he? He got into the phone booth, or is that just fire in the sky garbage and there's something different to the story? But anyhow, a lot of these people are being dropped out of the sky. And if you remember in the beginning, Steve and I were talking about some of these people are on a cell phone when they go missing. Like, I'm right here on the corner. Come and get me. Why can't you see me? And they're talking to the person on the phone and they're not where they say they are. And in some cases, it's even been recorded on like a voicemail that they're going, you know, where are you? You got to come and get me, blah, blah, blah. And then you hear this, it's like it's getting further and further away, and a wind, like a tunnel of wind. It's one of the creepiest things I've ever heard. If this is true, hey, Radio Vault, AJK. And it's just one of the creepiest things, because I'm sitting here thinking, man, like Steve and I were saying, to be one of the family members here, to have that person missing, your child, you were right there, hide and go seek, turn around, gone. I have to go pee. Famous last words, apparently. Point of separation. So think about that. Did somebody say this was okay? I believe this man. This man out of nowhere made this up, and he's going through all of this stuff in the town he lives in, and you know, I was going to say breads his butter on, but you know what I'm saying. You know, this is how he butters his bread. This is where he works. This is him down at the Kresge sitting on the stool, you know, having that, you know, those scrambled eggs and sausage, you know, and a cup of coffee and a cigarette. And, you know, working where you live. And he's making this up. The eye going over his whole body. What trips me out too is they're all different. You got praying mantis, grays, short grays, long grays, humanoids, Palladians, Orions, lizard people, weird combinations of the two. And both of these that I'm showing you tonight are the most way out descriptions of these aliens, whatever you want to call them. And we got to stop putting it all trying to put it all in these labels, you know. And again, somebody in here mentioned, I believe it was Echo, if I'm wrong, please forgive me, that there have been things happen just recently, as well as in wars. Going back to the Civil War, I know for sure the Civil War, the Vietnam War, I believe the Korean and World War II, off the top of my head, where something bad was going to happen and it was stopped out of nowhere. Nobody can explain it. I think you know what I'm talking about. Mind-boggling. Because I'm of the mind that if these things, whatever they are, and I don't believe they're all the same, and I believe everybody's got a different agenda. My God, we do. And just because one race doesn't mean they're all going to act that way. They're just going to have similarities just like we do. But I'm not like my neighbor, and I'm not like, all the people around me. We're all so different. Why wouldn't they be? So you can't take anything for granted. The only thing I can think of is if they are more intelligent and they are, like just assume, as a whole, overall, the average of them are more intelligent than we are. And they wanted to hurt us, I think they would have. And who's to say they're not? Everybody's got an agenda. They could have been hurting us all along. It could also be good working. All of it's true. And where we are. Clowns to the left of me. Jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. So, that's what I'm saying.
And that's when I seen Calvin. He's standing right over here in this area, and he was standing facing the river with his arms outstretched like that, just like he was staring at something.
Cal.
Tell me about the lie detector test.
Well, so that was run by Pilkington. Was it Pilkington?
Would you want to be in a room being questioned by these guys?
They run this type of test about 6 times a day. And when they were asked to come over here,
can you imagine, Stephen?
Talk to these people.
You got to sit in a room and have this guy smack a pad down.
Just a big joke.
Tell us what happened. Laughing at you.
Correctly, they ran one test on Mr. Hickson. The machine showed that he was telling the truth. Then they run another one. And then the examiner, he began to wonder himself. So he ran the third test. And
3 tests, Steve. 3 tests.
Mr. Hickson had told him.
One wasn't enough.
Mr. Booth, tell me what happened that night in October.
Well, I got up and had turned off the TV and come to the front door, which you can see right behind me.
Right.
Just as usual, checking to see if it was locked.
I like that. I come to the front door, which you can see right behind me.
Yeah. Steal his wheel. You bet. Man,
I
that
never
guy's
would have known
there.
that was the front door. Hey, radio bar.
Big old afro.
Hear any racket or anything.
I'm sorry. They can't
So
hear
I
what the
opened
gentleman's
door
saying.
After a few seconds to step out.
Is that a jumpsuit, Steve?
Tell what it was.
That is too,
so.
isn't it? I believe that's a jumpsuit.
Yeah,
He's working it. He's working it though.
If you ever catch me in one of those, just go ahead and knock me in the head.
Clockwise motion.
I'll wear a fur bathrobe and a beret, but I will not wear a jumpsuit.
I mean, no disrespect. I'm just saying I had to point that out. It's got a little matching little belt and everything. Look at there. It's got one of them hook belts.
It was made into it. I remember when old guys wore those.
Yeah,
in the 70s.
buddy.
Woo! Creatures, whatever they were, didn't communicate with it. Now, it's enough to say you saw a UFO to give you trouble these days in some towns. To be taken aboard is just a suspect idea. But somehow, if the creatures don't give you a message, you're just a touch less incredible.
This is an important point. A lot of these people, and I've read a lot of these stories, believe me, ad nauseum, and it's just one after the other, to the other, to the other. And they're not all exactly the same, just like people's NDEs aren't all exactly the same, but they're similar, And a lot of these people, this is a dandy right here. When they go back to the towns, it seems like, did they have a secret message? Did they tell you about, the end of the world? Or did they give you some profound, no, they just, hung me upside down. And
it also makes you think if they're looking for intelligent life, they landed in the wrong place.
The wrong damn place.
I'm sorry, I'm being harsh there.
Can you imagine they landing in the middle of Walmart on a Saturday afternoon?
They take off real quick.
Can you imagine?
No intelligent life here.
Watching us go in there, pick out the concept that they would have to wrap their mind around us going in there and trying to figure out, okay, we go in, we park this vehicle that we show up in, we pay to get a cart, we put coins in, get a cart, we take a cart in there, pick out what we want, check it out ourselves, have to bring our own bags, but the people in the store are the ones getting paid, trying to wrap their mind around the
Yeah, I think
concept.
if I check myself out, then that means I work
That
there. I should
I
get a
work
discount.
there. Yeah.
I want
know,
benefit.
it's crazy. Lord, look at what we let the world get to. Look at this. Just, song lyrics just going through my head. It's just, hey,
My
what's
hair
that
is
sound?
killing me.
Everybody,
David
look
Lynch
what's
making
going
hair
down.
style my hair.
You know what I mean? And still, 1973. Show me what's changed. And again, I'm moving past the fact that I don't believe these guys. I absolutely believe them. This gentleman that just got done talking died in 2011. Never changed his story. And he was worse for telling the truth. He was worse off for telling the truth. So, you know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, I'm satisfied with that.
And
for
Charlie
me.
says that what he said and what we wrote about in the book, it was like they had a job to do and they came and they did it.
I think there has to be a reason why that Calvin and me was picked.
Maybe because you could take it.
Well, it might be. I don't know. I think that they know more of what's going on down here on this earth than we think. And I don't know. They might have been, you might say, looking for somebody that that could, you might say, hold up under the strain and convince people that
Oh, that's a good point too. There's
Yeah.
some tough old boys down there
Yeah.
in Pascagoula.
I shit you not. We're so lucky to have all these little extras. And look, Steve, I've been playing with my software. Look at there. Watch
Yeah,
this. Watch
you're
this.
getting good
Watch
with
this.
that.
Look at there. Look at there. Hold up. Hold up. Wait, there's more. Hold on. Freeze frame. What?
Look at that.
Oh, crispy. Look at there. Ain't that sweet? Now, these are the Martians. I mean, that's a crazy looking. Doesn't look anything like Gracie. You know what I mean? Look at there. The Hot Mess Express Railroad right there. So crazy looking, I don't know, spaceman, Martian alien.
What was that? Yeah,
Extraterrestrial?
it looked like. Do you remember on Lost in Space when those giant carrots came after
And the
a giant carrot
cones.
came after Dr.
Yeah.
Smith? That's what that
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah. Boy, we saw nobody could tell us. We've seen everything from the old B and C and D movies back Saturday morning. We saw
Plan
all
9
the, like
from
you
outer
said,
space.
Lost in Space had some, carrots for fingers and stuff. Foil, tinfoil everywhere. We've seen it, crazy stuff. But some of these things look like that. And I'm wondering if it's like we were talking about last night. It's like, what if our brains, our consciousness just cannot accept what we're seeing and our brain forms something to explain? Or it could be the way they're manifesting themselves. Again, we're trying to make things physical beings when they may not be all that physical, at least not all the time. So that's something to consider, because I think one of the things we keep getting wrong and why we can't all just get on the same page and say, yes, these beings from wherever they come from, interplanetary, interdimensional, extra-dimensional, you name it, in and out and upside down, something's going on. And who's on our side and who isn't? That's what I want to know. I'm like, how does this affect me? And what do they want? And, can I avoid this? So the thing that burns my britches, basically, is that people that we, and I certainly don't want to say trusted, but are speaking for us and saying that it's okay to pull people out of the woods like this. And, families are suffering. This is horrible. And a lot of them. Now, the thing also that creeps me out is about 25, 30 years ago, I had some really close people that I talked some very deep things with, mediums, remote viewers. Both of them had experience working with cases and cold cases and things like this, and in and out, different stories about working with police departments and everything else. Most of them good once they got started. Most of them good. it's hard to get started in that because most of the time you're blamed for the stuff because you know where the stuff is and you know that story. But they, at different times around the same time, but at different times, not in the same room and certainly not on the same conversation, they said to me and gave me the information that a lot of these missing people, they can trace to a certain point and then they stop. And when asked why they stopped, they said, because the people that are involved will ruin you, you know, and, you know, lean towards a larger group of people or things that plotted and thinks it's okay to take people like cattle, you know, like no different than the cows that are mutilated next to the, you know, all that mess, and the elk. And, you know, again, in this movie, they bring up a lot about the elk and a lot of the hunters and things like that. Because last time, wasn't it bow hunters and stuff? They saw that predator thing and other people.
Yeah, it was Bruce Maccabee's wife, Jan, was in a tree stand.
Okay.
And saw that predator creature over in another tree. She was bow hunting.
Yep.
And she was behind a high school.
Yep.
And the high school, I think the
high school band was practicing.
Somebody was practicing. Yep. And there was a UFO event occurred at the same time that she saw the predator creature. So
And again, if I recall correctly, she found herself almost stunned is a good word, I think, to put it. Stunned and almost like kind of very copacetic. I'm just going to continue to do what I was doing and everything is fine. That kind of feeling, almost like when people say, you know, I woke up and the big scary creature was standing by the bed and I went back to sleep. You know, that kind of feeling. So if we throw that in there as similarities in these wild cases of the paranormal, supernatural, whatever, it's another piece of that puzzle that it's so similar. Is all energy and
again, these UFOs are something that's in all cultures.
Hypnotic.
I mean, even back to biblical times. And then you look at some of those medieval paintings of biblical scenes, there's UFOs in the picture.
Yeah.
And somebody in the chat was asking about that gold buffalo coin. That's a slightly redone design of James Fraser's design that they put on the Indian head nickel. Back in, I think, 1913. It was the blend of 3 different chiefs that modeled for him: a big tree, iron tail, and 2 moons. And they've combined together into one sculpture. They've slightly modified that, and that's what's on the gold buffalo coin, for those of you that were talking about it in the chat.
Oh, how
but
cool.
Native Americans, they had things in the sky.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, so many stories. So, you know, again, my thing is to tie it in tonight is like, I believe these people are telling the truth. From what I saw nothing there that I disbelieve.
Well, again, why would you
I
make
can
that up?
Put yourself through it.
Open yourself up to that kind of ridicule.
Oh, my God.
And, I mean, the guy was a laughing stock. And,
absolutely. And died holding his story.
He never wavered on it.
Died holding his story. You know, that one guy that you saw talking. He
hypnosis.
passed.
They put him under lie detectors. They did all kinds of things and couldn't get any different story out of it. I believe it.
How many do you have to take? They say, you know, one after the other. We gave him another test. This guy didn't believe it, took another test and another test. And they just keep doing it, doing it again. This stuff goes nowhere. It hits the ceiling and it falls, and it's the next narrative and the next thing and the next football game and the next Super Bowl and the next this.
There's a distraction.
This stuff is going on, folks.
And I'm wondering if the stuff we're seeing in the sky, the spy balloons, and
there
was a satellite that was firing some kind of green lasers onto Canada. There's UAPs or whatever they're calling them now. Again, and somebody said this in the chat.
Things being shot off the walls.
Unidentified aerial phenomena. That means that maybe it's not real, maybe it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Geez,
the Georgia Guidestones got zapped out, something out of the sky, and everybody's just going on to the next, going to Starbucks and getting their burnt coffee. You know, I don't understand what it takes.
When you have those pictures of the trees lifted up their skirts and walked away.
Yeah, and they got invisible monkeys jumping around in the trees in Chicago, and dark winged things standing on buildings.
A few years ago, they were having the fires in California, and there were trees that burned from the inside out. Do you remember that? There were cars that were literally
towns in Colorado
torched, but they were anything plastic. It didn't touch it. There were houses that burned to the ground, but the shrubbery right outside the windows was still there.
Cars melted. Cars
That's
melted.
a directed energy weapon or something like that. That's not a
every
fire.
house on the goddamn block gone. Skip that house. Trees not burned. Cars are melted to the ground. And you know, and you got tornadoes going across 5 states. Come on, people now.
Something's going on.
Smile on your brother, everybody get together.
The funny honey has left the building.
Here we go. So now that was that one man that was there. Now again, they were just fishing, you know, and the one other gentleman was about 18, 19 years old when it happened to him, Steve. And he stayed quiet for about 45, 50 years. His own family didn't realize it was him. Again, this is how quiet
he probably
stayed.
Learned a lesson from the other guys that talked and all they endured because of it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, even to the point of his own family didn't realize until he come out and said, yeah, well, that was me. You know, this is how much he kept it down. But he's here to tell us a little bit. So I got a little snippet of this. It's about 5 minutes. And he's going to stick with his story, too. So that's 2. Both of these gentlemen in this small town stuck to their story for 50 years. Now, this gentleman, too, has passed last year. But right up until the end, he got to live his life the way he wanted.
Hey, Jordan,
he got his book out, and then he went on with his wife and went camping in the hills, and that's where he passed. So, as you listen to him, ask yourself: is he lying?
Any feelings or flashbacks when you come out here?
No, it's changed.
He was 18 when it happened, Steve. 18.
What do you think about the whole experience? Think it happened?
I think something happened down there. I'm not at all sure what happened.
Something happened to him, the way they were upset. You don't fake fear. You know, he was scared.
Right on.
He was scared out of his mind.
That's what he looked like.
Look at him. PTSD.
Yeah, 18 years old.
When I was a kid, I saw people come back from Vietnam.
In 1973, Calvin Parker was 19. A hard worker who just wanted to build a home and raise a family. But those plans would be derailed during a fishing trip in Pascagoula.
A real bright beam appeared all over us, but it kind of blinded me for a second, and when I got my vision back, I seen 3 bulky looking creatures coming toward us.
Parker will tell you, because of this night, he's spent the last 45 years in hiding, scared to face the curious and unrelenting public eye.
We'll get up and go to work in the morning, nobody would never know, and they won't make us out to be idiots.
But after suffering a stroke and having 2 open heart surgeries, in a rare interview, Parker is recounting to me the night that changed his life.
We pulled up and I noticed there was posted signs there. And I said, Charlie, you know, maybe we don't need to go fishing here. He said, no, that's fine. And that's when I noticed some blue hazy lights reflecting coming across from my back, out across the water. So I stood up thinking that I was going to go to jail for trespassing.
Just north of where Ingalls Shipyard now sits, Parker and his fishing buddy, 42-year-old Charles Hickson, would do anything but fish that night.
I seen
Hard to
3
say, Glenn.
bulky
I asked the
looking
same
creatures
thing.
coming toward us. And they was probably 4.5, 5 foot
Look at that
tall,
picture,
built
Steve.
like football
That's
players.
just nightmare.
I mean,
noticed
come
they
on,
kinda
man.
moved
It looks like the
mechanical-wise,
Gauze
and they was
Man,
floating off the ground.
Toilet
By
paper.
the
Mummy
time
dude.
we stood
The
up
mummy.
and turned around,
Mummy
they
dude.
was there on us all at one time.
It's crazy.
So 2 of them got a hold of Charlie.
It's not
One
even.
of them got a hold of myself.
It's not streamlined
and
as you would think an
instantly
alien
I felt
would
like
dress.
that.
You know, wouldn't
I
you
just
think they'd
got
be more
relaxed.
streamlined,
Parker
aerodynamic?
claims he and Hickson were levitated into
Or
the
not
spacecraft.
at all.
There was an
but
examination.
then
on
who's
what
to
I
say?
don't
called
have
it.
anything on.
And the old big
Who's to
ugly
say with the
creature that brought
fashion?
me in,
You know,
he took me and
if
laid
they
me
came
on
down,
the
I'll tell you
examination
one thing
table.
for sure. If they came
he
down here just when we happen to have the Grammys or some gala or whatever you want to call them now, or the
Halloween.
Oscars or one of those, if they came down at then, Lord, what would they think of us? Do you know what I'm saying?
They turn around and go back.
That'd be bad timing. They go, what are they wearing? What are they doing? That's not, you know. But wouldn't you think they'd be a little more aerodynamic? They look like they're dressed in rags. Maybe they're just down on their luck, Steve. Maybe things aren't going too well over on their planet. You know,
Brother, can you spare a dime? You know, they
And
come to for a
maybe they're
handout.
goodwill aliens. Goodwill aliens. Salvation
Just
Army.
backed up out of the way.
Army.
I couldn't move or anything.
Wow.
Homeless
All I
aliens.
could do was look.
Oh, gosh.
And there was something about the size of a deck of cards that came out of the ceiling, and it hovered about a foot in front of my eyes, and then it went to the right side of my head, and it clicked, went behind my head, and it clicked, went to the left side of my head and clicked, and then straight to the front, and then it shot back up in the ceiling. And that's when I noticed some kind of little ruffling noise, and this more feminine looking creature came out. She looked completely different than the
Now listen here, Steve, what happened?
what I call the robot, because he moved like a robot,
gonna give you the
just
willies.
mechanical wise. She looked kind of feminine looking and had fingers, regular fingers, and all. Come over and pinched me on the side of the cheek. And then she took her finger and run down my throat and got behind that little thing that hangs down back there and tried to come up in my nasal cavity.
Oh,
and that
my
was when
God.
it started hurting and I started choking and I got scared. And
They probed him, but
she
on the
just
other
kinda
end.
telepathically told me,
She's so peace.
don't be afraid, we're not going to hurt you.
And with those words, Parker
Just shove
says
her
the
hand down
aliens
the throat.
dropped he and Hickson back
And
off
tried
on
to
the
stick her
bank.
finger up his nose
Frozen
from
in
about the
fear,
backside.
Parker didn't want to let
Of
anyone
Abdullah
know what happened.
Oblongata or whatever.
Hickson, however, said they had to tell somebody,
good one.
so they called the Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
I think he meant hover.
Could have hit me. He said, yeah, I've had something happen, but said, you gonna laugh if I tell you what it is. I
hoovered
said,
him,
look,
yeah.
fella, go ahead and tell me what happened. He said, I got picked up by a UFO.
And he laughs at him. He
He
laughs
said,
at
I
him.
told
See?
you he was gonna laugh.
See?
Still, former Jackson County Captain Glenn Ryder told
what
the
are you gonna
men
do,
to come
Steve?
into the station.
Jackson County deputies had
I mean,
two
I don't
choices
think
that
I'd
night.
tell
They
anybody.
could choose to
I'd just
believe
screw it.
Parker and Hickson
Hope she
had
washed
really
that
been
finger.
taken from the banks of the Pascagoula River, like they said.
And the
Or
Abdullah
they could figure out
Oblongata.
if they were lying.
Isn't that what that's
So
called?
deputies stuck a secret
No, that's
tape
your
recorder
brain.
inside
I
an
think. What is the?
interrogation room
You're
back
talking about
at
the
the
little
station.
punch
And
bag
it's
that
what they
hangs down
heard.
back there.
The thing in the back of your throat.
Yeah, it's
Hold
somebody
on.
here knows what it is.
What is
we'll
it?
see.
Say it, chat. She stuck her finger that far down in his mouth. It tickled the back of
And
his
then
throat. Tried to
tried to
stick
go
it up
up.
into his nose. She deserved a Barbara Stanwyck slap, I think.
It's the uvula,
There you go. I like
the
mine
little
better.
fleshy ball hanging in the back of your throat, hanging ball. Part of
Oh,
your soft palate. It helps prevent food and liquid from going up your nose when you swallow. It also secretes saliva to keep your mouth hydrated. That's from the clevelandclinic.org.
We heard it here, folks, right here on Journey Through the Gate. Last week we
Uvula.
told you that to find out if you got a portal in your mirror to touch it, and if there's a space.
Oh, I've got to
It's
send you a picture.
Oh my
This
God! What do you
mirror in
got?
here.
Oh,
When
geez.
I touch it, there is a space.
Yep.
And I mean, my finger is touching the mirror, but there's
And
a
there's a
little
space.
tiny gap there.
You got a portal.
I'll take a
Steve.
picture of it and send it to
Did
you.
you
I
hear
meant to
that,
do
Lynn?
earlier.
Do you hear that? Lynn will
This
respond here in a
mirror
minute.
right here in this room with me.
We told him right
There's
here
a gap.
live.
That's what I pushed my finger as hard as I could up against the.
Yep. We told you right here, and you just got froze. Somebody's telling you. Did you see that, folks? Come back in, Steve. And they stopped it right there. As a yep, that's right. You see this? I hope we didn't freeze. Are we 5-5? And we just lost Steve? Steve, you're going to have to go out and come back in, honey. I hope you're all right over there. Sound the alarms. I think everything else is working. Yes, you can hear me? 5-5, everybody? I think I lost Steve. Let's see.
On those tapes
This
that
is
made
working.
them believe the two
All good here.
were
Okay,
not
thanks,
lying.
Amy. Steve, you're going to have to go out and come back in. Okay, this is important. There he is. He's going out. He's going to come back in. This is important. So what these thank you, Uncommon. 5x5. So what these guys did to catch these dudes, this is the night they're still being interrogated. This is fresh out the abduction. These young man's 19 years old, and this other man, they were fishing, blah blah blah. This happened. They're sitting in the room at the sheriff's department, and these good old boys are yucking it up back here, saying they're all proud because they set a tape recorder Here he comes back. A tape recorder and recorded these guys when they didn't know they were being recorded. Thought they was going to catch him in a lie. Did you hear that, Steve? Are you okay, honey?
Part of it. Ain't
Right
that
when
some
you
shit,
said
though?
you had a portal in your mirror, they cut you off.
My internet went down. The lights flickered in here.
There you go. There you go. There's your
I was
confirmation.
going to say, I tried it on the bathroom mirror, and I think that's the only other mirror I've got in here.
Don't poke the mirror,
And,
Steve.
both bathrooms, my finger touched, but this one on the door, it looks like a closet, but that's where my central heating unit is.
Don't poke it.
It's screwed onto the door. There is a gap there when I touch the mirror. So there you go, Lynn.
Lynn's not wrong, are you, Lynn? We knew.
But as soon as I started talking about that, they shut me up. They made the lights flicker.
That was your confirmation.
My internet went out. Yeah, right there.
No, it's your confirmation. Yep. That's that dang portal again, Echo. So anyway, the sheriffs try to catch these good old boys. Okay. So they're all sitting around going, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a tape recorder, leave it running in there, and catch them in the lie, because they thought they were going to catch them saying, like, oh boy, we got them, this time. I think we got them on the run, that kind of thing. That's not what they got. Listen to what they got now. That there is caption, because it's hard to hear it, because like I said, it's just an old recording, probably reel to reel back then, huh, Steve?
In an interrogation room back at the station.
This is what they did.
It's what they heard on those tapes that made them believe the two were not lying.
And they were upset. I figured they'd say, well, look, we got these guys fooled, but it wasn't that. They were still. The boy especially was upset.
The men would take lie detector tests and pass. Ufologists and researchers flew in right away to interview and hypnotize the two, concluding they did experience something traumatic. The two.
So what more do you need? Do you see what I'm saying? They've got all that, and they're still running them through the ringer. So, think about it. If this happened to you, would you run right out to try to tell everybody? Think about it, would you?
I probably would, but most people wouldn't.
Right. Well, we're a little bit different. We wouldn't shut up about it. We'd make a series out of it.
Who were even sent to Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi to make sure they weren't
live on the
radioactive.
scene.
It's a circus, media circus.
Within days, the story went global.
Global,
After the two were checked out, former WALA TV reporter Rennie Brabner caught up with them.
Up at the emergency room door, there's a line of sheriff's cars out there.
Oh, wow.
We went in with our cameras going, and at least for the first time saw the two guys.
Brabner says to this day, it's still something viewers never seem to forget.
There's a reasonable chance that they'll say, wait a minute, didn't you cover those guys getting on the UFO? What do you think? Most of the stories you do, they're gone tomorrow or the next day or whatever.
That's a crazy looking ship, Steve.
And it's always intrigued me a little bit that had some legs, some interest.
Look at that.
Particularly years
That's
and years
detailed.
and years
Looks
later.
like a big
Like
old
Captain Ryder,
blowfish.
Brabner too believes something happened that night, but he isn't sure what.
I just
do
don't
not think they
understand
made it up.
their outfits.
In the sense that they created out of whole cloth. I have been told that particularly Hickson was known to take a drink. Was it at the bottom of a bottle of John Barleycorn? I don't know.
Charles Hickson wrote a book on his encounter and spoke numerous times about it.
Funny, Monica.
He passed away in 2011. Parker says
Bless his
he's a
heart.
religious man and believes there's an
That's
explanation why he went through what he did. For now, he still ponders why it happened to him.
You can't
for
really
Pete's sake.
pin everything down.
Pause
You
that
don't
a
really
second,
know.
please.
And that's
Now, talking about the guy, well, he was known to take a drink. Cisco, you've been a bartender.
Isn't that
and I'm not
what
talking
a piece
about
of shit?
not talking about the jumpers and stuff.
I mean, to say
And
stuff
when I
like
was in
that.
college, I've drank a lot.
My ass
I've
off.
never been to the point where I saw things or couldn't remember what I did. the night
100%,
before.
Stephen.
Now I
100%
know there
agree.
is such a thing as blackout drinking, but I don't think anybody took a couple of swigs of John
I can
Barleycorn and that
attest.
made him see a UFO.
I'll tell you what.
That's a cop out or a cover up or somebody
The
that
worst
just don't know
night.
what they're talking
I mean,
about.
even on acid stuff like that. I mean, that's a little bit different. But
That would be
but not
understandable,
even
but not
mushrooms or
liquor
anything.
or
No,
smoking a little weed or something like that. It
and some
doesn't
of
do
these
that.
people talk about it like they talk about like reefer madness. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's
Yeah, my
smoking,
parents were that
he's smoking
generation.
the
One
pot.
toke and you're a raving
you know?
maniac and you murder people. and
Hell no.
It's
I
the
mean, these
exact
people
opposite.
coming out, and the wild thing is again, I've researched this back, and there's 3 or 4 different witnesses that either saw the ship. There's 3 that saw the ship, 1 that saw the ship and saw at least one of these creatures, and was so shook up about it and was going to go in and talk to somebody because they felt like they had to know, let people know about it, and saw the way these guys were getting treated and backed down for decades, and then came up and said it at the end. So, again, why would you just out of nowhere? Everybody loves attention, but some things are just a little too wild. This is about done. So anyway, this gentleman passed about a year and a half ago.
The point I'm holding
and stuck
out,
with
I
his
don't know what happened.
story.
I know something happened.
Something happened. I mean, that's fact. So here's a picture of them again. Again, it doesn't look very workable for a day wear, Steve. Maybe something more formal, but
yeah. Well, and I've heard people say, "Oh, it was one of ours," and they were wearing like flight suits or military suits. There's not a flight suit in the world unless it's an Egyptian mummy.
Like I said, it's not very aerodynamic. But again, it doesn't. The suit doesn't look at how aerodynamic and sleek their vehicle is. It doesn't quite match up.
It doesn't match up, does it?
Something's wrong.
And that's another thing that I think
But
points
they
to
may
them
have
not making it up.
This way.
If they were making it up and they were going to make up a ship that was that sleek and aerodynamic, then those guys would have been wearing spacesuits or something and not look like they're wearing bandages.
It's true. So so there's that. That is the I almost said Punchadula. Now I'm thinking of Punch and Judy, the puppets that used to beat the hell out of each other. The medieval entertainment puppets that they used to have, Punch
and Judy show.
And they used to put on like these little plays in Shakespeare, and they would just beat the hell out of each other with bats and stuff. It was great. Entertain the kids. Entertain the kids.
Remember how violent cartoons were when we were kids?
So true. So true. It's a good point.
The Roadrunner.
So the next one is
Bugs
old
Bunny.
Carl. Now this one's a little longer, so if you got to get up, make it, a sandwich or something. But we can talk over it real quick and run through it. But I think it's important to understand. I have a lot of respect for Carl. Now here's why. Carl in this movie, he was the inspiration to do this whole show. And hey, cats. And he's in this new UFO connection, missing 411. And still, I believe it was last year-ish, okay, that he's still sitting in a chair telling this story to Politis and Company, okay? So, still very coherent, amazing man. Still the same story. Now, in the Politis, they bring out a movie. They bring out a little bit more of the detail. I went back and researched it, matched up to a couple of interviews and podcasts he did in a little spurt about 10 years ago. His wife has written a book, a first-hand account with his sketches that he sketched right after the fact by his hand. They seem very amateurish, and he admits that. But it was fresh in his mind. This is what he saw. He was an elk hunter, worked on the oil rigs out in the desert, moved around a lot. Family man. Again, think about him going down there having breakfast and coffee with the boys. You're not going to make up a story and deal with that all day.
Especially some of those guys that work on those oil rigs.
Oh
those
my
are some
God!
Roughnecks. You don't want that. That's the last people you would want to make you a target.
Yeah, he's just trying to feed his family. He goes in to pick up. Now, in some stories, they say everybody on his crew was sick. I tend to believe the fresh story right after the time. Usually that's when you're going to hear most of the truth, right after. because everything gets tainted and twisted later. So one guy he was going to go work with, he was sick, so they couldn't go do the job. So he had his rifle, decided to take the day rather than waste it and go out elk hunting since he was out there, had his license, he was ready to roll, had kids at home to feed. Elk hunting was the thing to do. So now in this account, this earlier one, he does bring up a lot about the craft he saw, and that's one of the reasons I used that box kind of gift that just kind of changed and like folded and unfolded on itself, because that's what this guy kind of described. Carl described seeing a glass cube, much like a large fish tank with no water or nothing in it, just glass. And he assumed that this was the craft. But now not in this one, but in the, in the movie, so it was from last year when he told the story, he added in some detail that they weren't really ready to let go in the 70s. If you think about it, Steve, they really were kind of kept in this, censorship ball back in the 70s, when they'd only go so far. They'd only let a little bit out. So you can see the difference. So this is our good friend. You guys are going to be so excited. Ted, hold on to your chair. This is Leonard Nimoy is going to tell us a little bit about Carl. And then I've got a little bit about Carl right after this. And then we're...
And that was the other thing I'd
Eisenhower.
just like to mention real quick.
Sure.
A lot of the news stations that picked those up and covered it, both with Pascagoula and the other one there, they did it with kind of a smirk on their face. Oh, look at this. These two gentlemen were... went on a UFO, and one guy had his uvula played with, and
Melissa said.
it was just like
Yep.
And they didn't.
And
nobody really took it seriously.
Yeah. Here we go, Ted. Yep. I know you'd be excited, but put a big smile on my face when I was getting it ready. So here we go. Now again, we have seen this before about a year and a half ago when we did our abduction thing, but now we're focusing just on Carl, and I cut that part out, so it's all just Carl here. And I also wanted to say before I forget, because you guys are always saying synchronicity, and Lynn, heads up, I want you to tell Anne Marie this. I was joking about fortune cookies, and there was this big funny comedian that was talking about getting fortune cookies in a Japanese restaurant with a sushi or something. It was funny because they're Chinese, not Japanese, and there was a whole bit on that. But anyway, it was really funny. And we happened to get Chinese food. Something happened with the fortune cookies. Anyway, my son got one that was absolutely blank, and then he got another one that said this, and I said I have to save this and tell this on the show, because we were just talking about this, and it says wait a minute, shoot, I can't even see it with the light.
Help, I'm trapped in a fortune cookie factory.
Yeah, exactly. All the darkness in the world cannot put out a single candle.
There you go. That's a good
I swear to you, that's exactly what it says right there. Can you believe that? So what am I always saying here? If that's not affirmation, I don't know what
Mama
is.
Gum talks truth. There you go.
I speak the truth, baby. I speak the truth, and you know what? I think Carl speaks the truth too. So you be the judge, and Newt's Top 5 says, you be the judge. All right, see this picture right here, Steve? Right here, I got to stop it. This is Carl Higdon in 1974. This is who he saw. Explained in the movie, his wife did, that this being wore black because our sun burned him. He also took ridicule because there's some kind of creature in Star Trek that looks similar to this with the headgear, whatever. This is the bullet. Now, when he saw this cube, he explained more about the bullet this time. He sees the elk, Steve. He goes to shoot because they're clustered together. He pegs one on, and gets it in his sights, pulls the trigger, remembers that he doesn't hear it go off, but sees the bullet, and the bullet goes out slow and seems to hit an invisible force field and just land in the grass in front of him. And he mindlessly, in this kind of what he's not explaining this way, but it's how he's talking, he's almost in a trance at this point. He realizes the elk isn't moving, and the bullet just hit something he couldn't see. And that's when he looks over and he sees this cube, like a glass square cube, that he said he thought was probably the vessel. that he later was taken up in. So that's where we are. But this is what the bullet looked like, Steve. It has since been analyzed. The bullet, it looked like
it looked like it exploded. It looked like the round exploded. It didn't.
And ballistic experts have said that it almost looked like it had been peeled back inside out, and the lead was missing. So there you go. And it was in his pocket when he was found because he had picked it up. So there we go. 1974, Carl.
$500 billion stars in our galaxy alone, each a seething universe spitting fire and light. Only recently have the powerful eyes of radio telescopes given mankind a glimpse of the infinity of space. Astronomers maintain that if intelligent life exists on distant worlds, the likelihood of it crossing the endless chasm of time and space is next to impossible. Yet, 50,000 UFO sightings are reported each year. Some are backed by what is purported to be concrete evidence, like the suspended image of a UFO captured by an Arizona cameraman in 1966.
The television cameraman isn't the only person who's convinced that he has proof that UFOs are visiting the Earth. What's even more startling are the first-hand accounts of people who insist that they've been abducted by extraterrestrials. These people claim to have been held as prisoners on board spacecraft, examined by aliens, and then released. What makes their testimony difficult to dismiss is that it comes from average Americans.
Here we go, Steve. Can you imagine working on this crap all day?
Carl Higdon is the foreman of an oil rig in Rawlins, Wyoming. He's been at the same job for 15 years, working 6 days a week to support a family of 7.
Jeez.
His crew refers to him as the Wyoming Coyote because of his feisty determination to get the job done against all odds.
And this guy made up this story out of whole cloth and went out there and told this story with working with all these guys and doing what he's got to do to feed 7 kids and put all that in jeopardy. What are the odds of that, Stephen?
No, that ain't gonna happen.
No.
An experienced woodsman with a love for the hunt, he looks forward to those days he can retreat into the forest.
Yep, that's
However, one October morning in 1974 was to be different from all other days. Carl recreates the events as he remembers them.
I went to pick up my crew to go to work, and one of them was sick, so we couldn't work. So I came back to the house and decided I'd go hunting. So I decided to go on down into the forest, and I hunted down there until, it must have been around 4 o'clock. So I walked down over this hill. Whenever I got over the hill, I seen these 5 elk standing down there. One of them was a big bull, so I raised my gun to shoot.
Then, something happened beyond his range of experience. Carl blacked out. When he regained consciousness, he was aware that an undetermined period of time had elapsed and that he had lost touch with reality. He stumbled through the forest in a dazed condition, trying desperately to figure out where he was and how he could get help. By 8 in the evening, Marjorie Higdon became alarmed when her husband hadn't returned. She called for a search party.
Hello, Marilyn? Yes, this is Margie. Carl's not in from hunting yet, and I was wondering if you guys could take me out and look for him. Yeah, I know, but he's not in yet. Yeah, but I don't have a 4-wheel drive. Uh-huh. Well, I don't know. I just feel like I ought to go look for him.
Carl's friends discovered him in a semi-conscious state. They were disturbed by his incoherent ramblings.
What happened? I don't know. You don't know? I don't know. It seems strange.
You sure you're all right?
Yeah?
You're not hurting anywhere?
No.
Okay.
Get you out of here and get you to the doctor as soon as we can.
Carl was rushed to the emergency ward of the Carbon County Hospital, where he had trouble seeing, hearing, and speaking. Nurse Ella Peterson attended him for 3 days. During that time, he remained mainly in an amnesiac state, unable to recall his own name or recognize his wife. After
Can you imagine now in another account, they didn't put it out here in the 75, 76 edition. This is about 3-4 years after this actually happened. It was on In Search Of, and that's when it originally aired. So they cut a lot of it out. So when he sees this guy, he eventually describes it. They did connect him up somehow with this guy named Dr. Sprinkle. You're gonna meet him coming up. He's very much like the guy in, and very well may be the same guy, because this is the same time frame, but I cannot remember the doctor that was involved in the Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton one. But this was the guy you sent for when something like this happened. And Carl really had a good experience with this guy and said he saved his mind or he would have gone nuts. But so they cut out a little bit about what he went through, that he sat in the truck, could not remember how to run a truck. The radio, I'm guessing CB, was going off. He could hear people talking. He didn't realize that they were talking about him. They were looking for him. And he couldn't remember how to use the radio, let alone, like I said, the truck. And they found him sitting in the truck, incoherent, in a trance-like state for days he was. And the funny part is, in the movie, he adds in the fact about how the elk that he saw too were very much also held in a trance. Very interesting details.
the incident, life in Rawlins changed for Carl. He was too disoriented to work or function normally.
What up?
In desperation, he contacted the UFO agency, APRO, who sent Dr. Leo Sprinkle to investigate.
There he is. Dr. Sprinkle.
I serve as a consultant in psychology, and my primary interest is working with those people who claim to not only see flying saucers, but also claim to have had some kind of abduction experience or some kind of contact, face-to-face contact with alien beings who are associated with the UFOs. I myself have investigated 23 persons using hypnotic techniques to assist them to recall the experience. Okay, let yourself relax deeply and go right back to that same deep concentration, that same deep relaxation. Let the muscles relax. Let yourself know that you can breathe deeply and easily as you look at the spot. Sometimes these people have a loss of time experience, an amnesic period, which occurs during the UFO sighting, and then later they check their watches and find out that they have lost some time, which they cannot account for. And these cases are most exciting and interesting because it suggests the possibility that the persons have been taken on board, have been examined, and then released, and have been told that they will not remember what has happened.
It's Dr. Sprinkle. Poor man got took up in a spaceship.
Bullet don't look right.
This poor man. He's not a kitten anymore. Look, Ted. They're talking about you. Here, my man. This size of that baby. That boy. It'll be
He wants me to go with him.
He took this poor man up in the spaceship.
Lights are bright.
Baby.
Lights are
cute as feet. What'd he do?
Can't keep my eyes open. Can't see. They look like me. Same features. He said the sun burns him.
The sun burns
He's
him.
gonna take me back.
He's got a loud purr.
Just let yourself go back inside the cubicle.
This
What
poor
happened
man.
Inside the cubicle.
Oh. Can't get in, there ain't no door.
So here he is inside the glass cube.
Do you know how you get in?
No. We're above the trees. I can
And
see
he's
pretty good.
it is a fine hat, Ted.
The ball looks like a
And don't shoot me orange.
basketball.
So he sees
But it's
what
got a two
the earth basically.
gray outline. It's kind of dark. No lights. There's the lights again. We're back.
In the investigation of a case, Dr. Sprinkle attempts to establish an abductee's credibility.
Shock condition.
He closely questioned Nurse Peterson to determine Carl's condition immediately following the incident.
I bet you got top-notch care back then too.
Most of the time, saying that
You know
they
what I mean?
hurt
They were on
quite a
it.
bit. And
First
other
do
than
no
that, why,
harm.
he had no complaints of pain.
Raise both
That
arms for me.
shit's changed.
This first detachment goes across your upper abdomen.
In order to corroborate the story, he arranged for a polygraph exam to be administered.
More lie detector
Regarding
tests.
whether or not you actually had that UFO experience in question.
I'm gonna grab
you
some more
intend to
tea, guys.
answer
I'll be right
truthfully
back.
each
I'm not going
question
nowhere.
to that. Yes. Did you ride in that spacecraft you described to me? Yes.
In my own personal opinion, I find with the cases I've investigated that there seems to be no evidence of hoax. There seems to be no evidence of a psychotic reaction which has caused the individual to falsely believe that he or she has had an abduction, so that I'm left with the mysterious and sometimes uncomfortable feeling that the cases are happening as the individuals describe. That is, that they are being taken on board, examined, and released by intelligent beings who, for their own reasons, are engaging in these experiences.
Carl managed to work through a traumatic incident that he had been unable to live with. With the help of Dr. Sprinkle, he no longer was haunted by nightmares. He no longer doubted his own sanity. The abduction experience was resolved to his own satisfaction, and Carl resumed his work with a new vigor.
It don't make a hill of beans to me whether anybody believes it or not. I know what happened to me. If people want to take it at face value, that's fine. If they don't, it don't make me any difference. The only thing I'm saying is if this does happen to anybody else, what they are to do is talk to somebody about it. Not to hold it inside and try to conquer it themselves, because it can't be done, I don't think. I don't think our mind can take it. as far as the experience happening to me,
Funny,
I think if it hadn't been for Dr. Sprinkle, I probably would have been in an institution by now.
It's funny.
Carl's is not the only abduction case. There are others who claim to have been UFO captives.
You guys. So here we go. Carl Higdon, Medicine Bow National Park in Wyoming. And I will tell you this, Medicine Bow National Park, Wyoming. This happens to be one of the clusters. Now, again, as Stephen will tell you, there's a lot of things shifted, some things taken out, some things not put in. Again, these are missing people. And it's odd that some of them have so many different lives, yet so many different similarities. Now, are we looking for those similarities? Sure. Are we going to focus on those and magnify those because they fit a narrative? Yes, but they're still there. So there's that. They give this guy, problems with the cube because he describes a cube and he says, Steve, that it's 5 feet to his approximation. Again, he's not busy or nothing. He's in the middle of getting abducted and they're getting him on math, but it's 5 feet by 7 feet. They said he's a liar because there's no way that he could be in there, because in all of his stories, when he's allowed to elaborate, not in the 70s, but later on, he's in the ship. And when he turns around, maybe not the group of elk that was there in front of him that he was shooting at, maybe another group, but there's an elk on the ship with him. So I'm thinking, Steve, why not, we're trying to perceive it with our human minds, something that's not completely physical and out of our realm of consciousness. Of course, we would get measurements off because things are going to appear one way and may not even be that. We know that's true in the paranormal. You could have 3 mediums in a room with an entity and it's appearing 3 different ways to each one. We know that to be true, correct? So why couldn't aliens have that ability, or Bigfoot or feats or whatever? But here he is. Here's Carl with his lovely wife. To the best of my ability, I looked through. Now, Carl now says in the movie, where he's able to speak more freely, when the reason he came back is this. Spoiler alert, if you're going to watch the movie and you don't want to hear this, then cover your ears and go, la, 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 la. But he was returned back, and this Alto guy in the black rubber suit told him that he wasn't what they were looking for and returned him back to Earth. And he now believes, and I don't think I'm reaching too far, Stephen, if I say that I believe that David Paulides agreed with him, that it's a possibility that he was turned back because he had a vasectomy, Steve.
Possibility.
But 7 kids, can you blame him? So be that as it may, there are the facts. Facts,
Facts is facts.
Facts are the funny things, but
you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts.
Right. And facts don't care about your feelings. So I thought it was very cool. Here they are, the beautiful young couple, just married in August 1958, and still in 2018 and 60 years, he never changed his story. Just elaborated details that he told originally to that Sprinkle dude and his entourage, but they didn't allow it like in the 70s, like they didn't get deep into it. They just kind of like, Leonard Nimoy just lightly skipped across the top of it, and gave you the, a couple of the details. But so there's that. Now, what of this Eisenhower thing? Real quick, I wanted to throw this in here. I wanted to read you a little something. Actually, I think I've got it up here. I think I do. Hey, yeah, it's called the. Wait a minute. Let me see if I can get this. Let me do this the right way. Oh, geez, Steve. Here we go. I'm flicking switches and buttoning buttons, pushing levers. I can do it if I try. Here we go. Wow. Look at me go. I think I did it. Can you see that, guys?
I can see it. Yeah.
There we go. 1954. I don't know how to pronounce this. The Greta Treaty. President Eisenhower formed a treaty with aliens at Holloman Air Force Base. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save you some time on this because I've done the research. There's controversy that he didn't leave to go to this meeting with, however you want to put it. I've heard it explained everything from alien ambassadors to just a couple of aliens that had a little something that, a little something they wanted to trade off. And hey, we got an idea, take us to your leader kind of thing. So they say he went to the dentist. Now, this has been, if you hear this, discern for yourself, but understand that when he passed, the dental work that they tried to say and debunk this with never happened. It wasn't in his x-rays. It wasn't in his dental work. So there's that. There's some facts. Okay. He did leave. There are witnesses and whatever. So basically the whole thing was they traded for the some technology and for the ability to study some of us, very much just imagine dolphins bagged and tagged, right, Steve?
Yep.
There was certain areas. Now, this is creepy. I just found this out, and I did get it confirmed from a couple different sources. That part of it was out of national parks, which is weird. Why would you what? And plus, it's not confined to there either. So why would you even mention that? I just thought it was creepy that it was mentioned. And this is before that started to be a thing. Okay, this goes back decades. Okay, so around this time, so 1954, so decades. All right, so did this happen? Now, we've all heard things like this. We've heard about the Nixon and Jackie Gleason thing, which I tend to believe they were very good friends, golfing buddies. I had multiple pictures I can throw at you. Just trust me. I was up against the wall here, and I figured you'd just take my word for it. You can also Google it. Nixon and Jackie Gleason were very close. And the famous story, and I know Steve knows this, is one night he said, "Hey, you want to go see the aliens, at Roswell?" And these things have happened. We've talked about Jim Mars, and a couple weeks ago we talked about in Texas, the supposed bodies there that went all the way back, way back. So again, are they all fake? So you'd have to think. Now, Steve mentioned earlier about his granddaughter. Now, you can read into this. You can look into this again. Like if you run up against the dentist thing, understand that it's out there, dig deeper. You'll see that all that's been shown with dental records that he didn't go to the dentist. So where was he? Okay. So then you'd think, okay, well, the logical thing would be to go to family members. Does the family talk about it? In a lot of cases, like Billy the Kid and Jesse James and things like that, the family starts talking about it. What did they say about it? And sometimes they don't talk about it because they're shamed. So in this case, his great-granddaughter is Laura. I love her name, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. And I said in the beginning of this that she's eccentric. She's out there. You gotta, some days you gotta want it, but she's very much like me, I'm sure. But she's very smart in so many ways, but she gets excited about it too. So, but take that for what it's worth. She's an extremely smart individual. She's got a great podcast, but I've got a little snippet here. And I thought instead of telling you what she said, I thought you might like to hear about 50 seconds of her in her own words. And I think I've got the right one here. Is that it? I think it is. Maybe not. Which one? No, it's 1, 2 in. Okay, no, that's not it. Maybe it's this one. That's it. Here we go. There we go. Kick the mule, kick the mule. There she is. Isn't she gorgeous? I think she's beautiful.
Your great-grandfather, Dwight D. Eisenhower, signed a treaty with extraterrestrials.
it's a true story.
There you go.
What I've
She
learned
looks like
about
Ike. You can
Eisenhower's
see the
relationship
resemblance.
to extraterrestrial beings and ET government treaties is that supposedly in 1954 there was a meeting at Edwards Air Force Base.
Right.
They seemed to have diplomatic intention. The treaties had to do with bartering exchanges of planetary goods, natural resources, elements, and compounds.
There you
and
go.
It was in exchange for things like abduction.
Why would they want to abduct humans? What are they doing with that?
But they need our DNA. We have a treasure of DNA that is basically a living library.
Laura Eisenhower.
What? There you go, folks. And that's her. Now, if you watch her podcast or if you catch her in any of her interviews or whatever, and she, back and forth, she still sticks to that to this day. And this happened. Okay, there's with each president's got their hand in something. Remember when Carter came out and he was all gung-ho because he had seen a UFO and he had his own little experience, and they take him back in his back room and let him go, brother. And when he came back out of that room, he changed his whole attitude, turned around and said, I don't know nothing about no aliens.
Get me back to my peanut farm. What was that?
I don't know nothing about no aliens. So, again, you discern for yourself. There's, I think, some good solid stories that didn't change over the years, right? And, I believe Eisenhower did this. The treaties is signed. Everything, technology jumped from, where it was at that time, 1954, to really quick. And then kind of.
If you look back at 47, when Kenneth Arnold first observed those discs over Mount Rainier, to up to the 60s, how fast and how quickly, we suddenly had integrated circuits, we had transistors, and then from the computers, they were rudimentary, but then you look from the 60s to the 80s, how far it come, and then from there till now.
And this guy.
And if you look prior to that, it was, a horse and buggy and a car, and then all of a sudden, all this mechanical miniaturized stuff.
With that.
This guy right here.
Our DNA.
Our DNA. Okay, so there's something else to think of. Now, what went through here? I want you guys to answer me. Don't jump up. Yep, there it is. Echo's already got it. Before I even answered the question, what went through here like gangbusters? What was everybody pushing? How many times have I said it? When something is getting pushed, if they're paying for the billboards, they're paying for the advertisement, they're paying for the star, the spokesperson, the jingle, whatever it is, to get you to do something, I highly recommend you research whatever the hell that is before you do it. Reconsider, because I can remember throughout my life, I'd say, oh, why are they pushing that so much? I'm going to back off of that. And then found out that was an issue later, and whether it be something as simple as, milk to God knows what else. Okay. The whole spectrum, just question everything and think about it. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to fear. Knowledge is power. And the more you understand, the more you can go, that's what that is. This is, and you can counteract that because it's all one big spell. People always throw out this thing, PSYOP. Don't let that scare you. That's like conspiracy theorists. PSYOP, do you know what PSYOP is? Campbell's soup label is a PSYOP.
Exactly. McDonald's commercial, that's a PSYOP.
Target is, you walk into Target, the way it's set up is a PSYOP. The colors, the music.
Same with a grocery
Las
store,
Vegas,
the way it's laid out. The casinos with the busy carpet.
Movie theater, the airplanes, everything you did, the way escalators are in a mall, for God's sake, the way a Dorito tastes, the way they can get a flavor. How many people have these damn chips? Yeah, absolutely. That logo, the colors,
transformation flavored. Now, what does that even mean? Transformation flavored.
The movies, when you're in the movies.
Hearts and butterflies and the word name Rosalie. There you got me.
That's all that's in that bottle. Hearts, butterflies, and Rosalie's in there too.
Yes.
Holy shit, Steve. That's a lot for you. That's a lot for your $3.25 for 16
Rosalie may have been Rosa He because it says transformation flavored. So who knows?
Oh Lord God, I don't even want to go
And
there.
it's called Move. I mean, what? Why would you drive
the
Move?
tangled web we weave when first we start fucking with
You
nature.
can see that. Move. Limited
That didn't
edition.
rhyme, but by God, it's
And
truthful.
transformation flavor.
I think I did, Steve. I
You
said
can
that
see
out
that,
loud.
and you can see there's butterflies and a spaceship.
Yeah,
and
buddy.
The name of Rosalie.
That's a psyop if I ever saw
There's
one.
Rosalie right there.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
Rosa
yeah.
something.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Makes
get it.
me want to go right out and buy
And
one.
it's
Ice
Coca-Cola.
Ice cold.
It's Creations.
240. Is that
Coca-Cola
right? Am I
Creations.
reading that right?
240 calories per bottle.
Is that the real sugar one or
That's the real sugar.
The aspartame
I don't
flavored
drink
with
that poison. This is
with
poison
natural
enough.
ingredients, crickets and beetles, all natural.
I like a cola every now and then, but I won't drink the aspartame.
No, man, it gives me a
I had
headache.
switched to Diet Cola at one time, and my doctor said that's poison. She said if you're going to drink one, she said you recommended actually going and getting the Mexican Cokes that have real cane sugar in them.
Instead of the high fructose corn
this
syrup.
was her exact words. Your brain is a whore for sugar.
Mm-hmm.
You give
Let
it
me tell you
sugar,
something.
caffeine, nicotine, it keeps it happy.
A young man. There once was a man named Rumsfeld who
I
worked
this
at
was
a factory.
limerick.
Yeah,
There once was a man from Boston,
from Nantucket, and he. Hey, Broden, what's up, baby? So yeah, psyop. You're psyop. We're all psyop. I'm a psyop. You're a psyop. I'm Spartacus. You're
Wouldn't
Spartacus.
you like to be a psyop too?
Yeah, like I said, Campbell Soup label is a freaking psyop. But I forget what the hell I was saying. So
Oreos
I don't know.
Psyop.
So
they have the Knights Templar symbols on them. Look it up.
yeah. Oh, isn't that true? Isn't that true? All of it.
Indeed.
Oh, Sir Bowden, thank you. Oh gosh, you're a sweetheart.
Look at that.
Thank you so much.
Sir Brian,
again,
you're a gentleman and a scholar. I don't care what Cisco
I
says
missed
about
it
you.
too. I'm aiming for it. I was looking right at it and I missed. I fired. That was a misfire. Look at there. I love it. Thank you, sweetheart. Love you, baby.
And
he's always there.
Out here.
He's a brother.
Super chats, super stickers are open. I think she's got a PayPal and all that good stuff. Give Cisco a hand if you like.
I ask him stupid questions and he answers them with honor and valor and a lilt in his heart. It's hard to find words to describe how you feel about people that you love so much. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
I have to introduce people that I feel so. Lynn Monet, and I'm like, how do you describe? When I heard her voice, I was like, okay.
It's easy to describe the people that you don't love. I love these people because they're not an a-hole like everybody else.
I recognize that soul. I mean, how many times have I told that story about going out on the Gettysburg battlefield? This guy goes out and he has to pull the car over. He doesn't plan on going to tour and doing all the whole thing. He's just getting caught up. Winds up getting out of the car, leaning on one of the split rail fences. And he feels something, and he feels like he's getting like stabbed or sharp pains and all throughout his body and his torso. And he thinks he's having a stroke. He doesn't know what's going on, a heart attack, what. He gets back to the car anyhow, goes home. That's the end of that trip. He's at the dentist, and he's looking. The magazine that's on the table, the coffee table in front of him, happens to have a picture. He says, it felt like I was looking at myself. Here's this general on the cover of this article, and it looks like him. He said, I saw this face shaven this morning, is what he said. And he reads about the article. This guy got killed where he was standing just days earlier and killed the way in the pains that he felt in his chest. Amazing. He goes back and gets a recording of several different voices saying, hello, General. And he feels like his soul was split or reincarnated, either like partially there and partially reincarnated, or completely reincarnated from this general. It's an amazing story. But when you think you've got this down and you hear a story like that, or you hear stories like you heard tonight from these guys who've never changed their story over decades, right? And now is brought up again anew in this movie. So again, if you're interested in missing persons, please check out Steve's channel. one of the best narrators. I promise you, he takes you right there. The silky smooth, salted
Namaste.
caramel vocal endurances of his voice that carries you into the story. And
can I stop you a minute there and read you a
Please.
comment that the
Please.
message that somebody sent me? I've just got to share this with everybody.
Sure, please do.
I have to thank you. I always listen to your new content the day it comes out. The story of David Guerrero, it was an artist that went missing that I covered, was playing and keeping me awake as my husband drove down the interstate. He fell into a seizure, and I was able to grab the wheel and shove him off the gas pedal.
Oh, my God.
He's just a hillbilly from North Georgia, and I'm from the Piedmont area of Georgia. I can't thank you enough for inadvertently saving our lives and letting us go home to our 7-year-old daughter.
Oh, wow.
Your stories and cases are how I calm down after a long day. I guess it's your tone of voice, and I try to really pay attention to what you say. Now, how about that?
How about that? Steve Stockton
I thank God
saving lives
that
with his
my
voice
was in the right place at the right time to prevent an accident and probably keep some little girl from being an orphan.
Man, Steve, you know,
God is good.
You never know who you're going to help or who you're going to guide. I mean, this is the thing. Or somebody that comes along. I got, Brian Bowden on here. He's come on here and shared his wisdom, hard-earned wisdom. He's hacked it out of the wilderness. He's done it, face to face, mano a mano in the fields, and over time, decades and decades of gathered wisdom. Each one of these people, Lynn Monet, same story, a different field, different journey. And we've all come here and converged into this journey. And we're re-looking at some of this stuff. My God, these people sat down. I have no doubt in my mind, sat down and made a treaty that said it was okay that they could take a few of us out of national parks or wherever. Apparently, according to our friend Steve, who I believe
I've got a question.
Right out of their beds.
I've got a question. They call it a treaty. That's usually people that are fighting with one another. Otherwise, it would have been an accord. It would have been an agreement. But a treaty means we'll let you do this and you don't kill us or vice versa.
Right.
So if it was truly a treaty, there was some sort of war, military action, something going on. It wasn't a deal. It wasn't a bargain. It was a treaty. And I may be off in my semantics there.
No.
They've always called it a treaty.
That's
never a
true.
deal, never an agreement, never anything.
And not even
a
really a trade. It's like they traded off for technology and whatever. And again, I've read and dug pretty deep into this and even read that, they really didn't come up with the whole what they were promised either. That the technology information kind of held off, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
I still think we got the better deal. Based on some of the people they've abducted.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, spell casting by words, Ted, absolutely. So, I mean, the whole thing is basically for tonight, looking back at the past, learning from history. So we're destined to repeat it. There's stuff going on right now which pay attention to, but knowledge is power. And, we know we're not to fear. Like, my little fortune cookie said here, one candle can, lighten the darkness. That's what we're all here for. Now, Lynn said it the other night, we're not reincarnated to chose to be here at this time. We incarnated to this time because we chose to do this. So, I think we pretty much balled that up, Steve. Re-looking at an old case.
I was a little off in my definition of a treaty. According to the dictionary, a formal agreement between two or more states in reference to peace, alliance, commerce, or other international relations. The formal document embodying such an international agreement. So, but I hear treaty, I think like a peace treaty.
Yeah.
And apparently it's words.
Well, you're talking to a Native American heritage and asking me what I think about treaties. But that's a whole nother show, my friend.
Well, I will tell you,
right, Anna?
The United States government broke every treaty that it ever made with the Native Americans. Every single one of them.
Every single freaking one of them. So,
and then some.
White man speaks with
they broke some treaties they didn't even have.
You know
I'm Eighth Cherokee. I can say that. Yeah.
Right here, this right here. That's sign language. It's sign language for two-faced. And before, they came along and all this stuff was going down.
Yeah.
Most of these tribal cultures had no word for liar in their language, no word for, like different, shenanigans that, they had to come up with different words for. Thank you, Brian. Has he got a question here? Let me see. I can't see.
I mean, they
Thank you,
traded,
Brian. Love you, baby.
what was it,
You may add to what
$24 and
you're
some
saying.
beads
Just
for
pray.
Manhattan Island?
Yep.
You know,
especially in this time. I agree, Brian.
What was up with that?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, there's
Manhattan
a lot going
Island
on right now.
$24 and some trinkets, or $27 or whatever it was.
And don't be fooled. Be safe. Don't be fooled. Don't be scared by crazy things. Use your discernment. And because stay trained. You know what I mean? It's like that's what this is. Is like mind push-ups. Is like this is what happened in the past. This is what happened to these people. Again, one after the other, after the other, after the other, on top of everything. Obviously,
and what's it say on the Simon Wiesenthal Center?
Yep.
Those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it.
Doomed to repeat it. George Santayana. So I look back in the past, Steve, and I dug a couple of things up. And I wanted to ask you a question. Did you have this book when you were young?
That looks like it was a little before my time. Maybe my parents or my grandparents studied that.
Maybe it was a coffee table book back in the day. Like we had those nurseries where all the toys were. I never had one of those. It's funny, but I've been over people's houses that had them. And the books that you saw there, I think I remember seeing this one as a kid. This is, of course, Your Childhood Ruined.
Sounds like what I would say at my puppet shows when I was a kid that I put on for my parents.
Stand up and clap, you miserable bitches. This is, of course, Your Childhood Ruined on Facebook and on the web, and we're honoring artists of all kinds and graphic artists. Of course, I went to school for graphic arts and art school and all kinds of art appreciation, art history, and all this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you something, I love a good logo. I mean, like Steve was talking about earlier, it's a psyop, basically, all advertising.
And sometimes they're just so simple.
Yes. And
Lowercase letters, one over the other, and it's just
across the board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got the dynamic wave device, they call it. They don't even call it a design. See that little symbol on the back there?
It's number one. I think McDonald's is right after it.
That's the dynamic wave device. Now, what does that even mean? Pepsi's got the thing. Nike's got the swoosh.
Yeah.
All that, again,
it's
science.
all... It's I promise you, it sounds like tinfoil hat shit, but here, let me tell you this.
Truth.
My tinfoil hat graduated to a tinfoil crown, quite a while back. And I just keep getting different big old hunky jewels put in it, right? Like big ones right up front, stuff like this, and there's plenty of room for more. But, and I wish I was wrong on a lot of this stuff, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So, but, graphic arts, just the way things are set up with color and stuff like this guy does such a great job, and he's great for a laugh, and laughter is the best medicine. And boy, we could use some now, Steve, right? I love this one because this is the kind of attitude. This again should be a coffee table book, Steve, I believe, for the gatekeepers and and the people in the chat. It's an easy reader.
What I'd like to do? I'd like to print some of these out and make book covers out of them. Cover some books.
Is that Alexa?
Stop.
Education.
Alexa,
there
stop.
Goes Steve's portal again. Here we go.
She just went off. Now I said everybody else.
Where do I hide this bag of fucks?
But I was going to say I'd like to print some of these out, make book covers out of them. Sneak into a bookstore or a library and cover some books with these, and then put it back on the shelf and just.
Well, it's an easy reader. I love the sign. I love the sign here. Either which way you go on your journey. This should be your mantra. Just pick one. There you go. And I believe there's a sequel to this one, Steve. So if you like that one, you'll love this one. No one gives. When you finally realize that nobody gives a fuck, your life is so much easier.
It is. And there's actually a book that exists called the
go back to this one.
The Subtle Art of Not Giving
a fuck.
And it's a real
I put
book
that in
on
Cabin
Amazon.
22. I put that in Cabin 22. Dave was reading that in the cabin.
Dave was reading that, wasn't he?
Yeah, in Haunted Cabinet. Yep. A self-help book. Here's one. This one's more for your college folks out there. I slayed a whole ass pizza. I love it all by at the bottom who it was by. I like this one. This one's for you Jersey folks, everybody out on the interstate. What exit are you from? What exit?
They always ask. Anytime when I worked at Nickelodeon, there's a lot of New Jersey people that work there, and they'd come in and say, "Oh, I'm from Jersey."
Yeah, what exit? This
and
exit.
That's what exit, and then they just laugh, and I never got the joke.
Yeah, 98. Yeah, with short points. It's crazy because the exit number goes up and tells you what you're more South Jersey or more up into the New York area or Atlantic City, or it's all a great big deal. It's like, again, nobody gives a shit, because it's all that Jersey Shore stuff and all that. It's a beach, folks. It's a boardwalk. It's got piers. It's got rides. It's got every kind of game that you can imagine that they've put together to separate you from your money. And
another psyop.
Yep. And the seagulls are just there begging for a handout. And, the homeless living under the boardwalk. When I was a teenager, trust me, I've been under that boardwalk. And, we used to be able to have bonfires and smoke on the beach. You can't smoke on the beach now, but by God, you can live on it as a homeless vet and all that. Don't get me started. Just the stuff that goes on. They set it on fire last week. It's horrible. So
the beach on fire? Oh,
the boardwalk. Now this is sad, but it's happened to the best of them, and it is kind of sad, this poor little red fox here, but I hope it all turns out. A lot of times these children books have a good moral, and I like this one too. We all have to pray for strength. So remember this little girl, as sweet as she is, praying for strength to just make sure so she cannot cut another bitch. And here's a little golden book. You may have had it, just like their parents. Kids sometimes grow up just like their parents, So, yep. Thank you, Sarah. This one's for the youngins. I remember these. My kids had these. I don't know if you had this one, but I think they might had a little too much Valentine's there, Steve. I'm not sure what's going on, but they might have to get tested. Yeah, they might have a little of that sheepies and herpes. I'm not sure what's going on here either. It looks like some kind of paranormal jujitsu.
Looks like somebody that I know would be interested in. I won't say the name.
Somebody's taking a dirty hit below the belt there.
Yeah,
I think. So this is exactly what the Jersey Shore is like. This is what the kids all look like. They all come out. They all hang out. Look like this. You got little Snookykins, and you got, I don't know who this guy is, but he looks just like one
that's
of those
probably
guys.
The situation.
None of the
because he's got the hair and the tattoos.
Oh my God, people!
And that's about the nicest thing you can say about it. That's
honest
on a good
to God,
day.
I can't. There's not a thing. You just don't want to get me. None of these people are from Jersey, first of all, but the people in Jersey that want to be like them blows my mind. The hair and the Snookykins and all that. It's so stupid. We got to stop making stupid people famous. And I thought this was great advice. I shared this with Steve. And, again, I'm telling you guys to keep your eyes open and keep your ears open and discern. You know what's happened in the past, what's happened in the present, getting the help to know those two things at once. And, and I'm certainly saying stand up for yourself, but I'm also saying that never fight until you have to. But when it's time to fight, you fight like you're the third monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark. And brother, it's starting to rain. But don't let them put out your candles. So I hope that covered everything tonight, Steve. This has been a blast. Monday Madness yet again.
Madness indeed. And we've heard UFOs, and we've knocked off a few people and stuff, and then I get a message telling me I saved a couple lives, so it all kind of equals
balancing it out to the yin and the yang, Steve. You got to balance it all out. We had good stuff. We're honoring artists, composers, and gift artists, and people that stood for the truth, what they believed in. I believe these men. I don't believe they would have made this up out of whole cloth. And you know what, Steve? There's 100 like them. Probably 1,000 over the time. Look how many we've talked about just on this show. Look how many that you guys know about that you could look back. How many in search ofs and unsolved mysteries and missing persons. This, I highly recommend going out there and watching that. And again, Steve and I joke, but it's an actual fact that I believe what happened, in all reality of things, that, David kind of went out there and he went out cautiously and didn't come right out and start talking about portals and everything else. But we behind the scenes that are in this, again, I don't have the credentials that man has. I have what I have. My experiences are mine. But, I can formulate thought and I can look at these things and I can take my experience and based off of that say, there's something going on in these woods. My elders told me about it. My experiences have told me about it, and if they did write, a treaty or whatever you want to call it and say that it was okay to take us against our will without us knowing it, it's not the first time that they played fast and loose with our lives. So that means that you got to be looking out for yours.
Quid pro
a little
quo,
bit better.
this for that. You give us technology, take whatever you want from the people.
Yep.
DNA, help yourself.
Yep. This, this big surge of, find out your bloodline and all that. Why, why are so many Rh negative people coming together? Very weird. It's, again, we laugh. I say it's very much like The Stand. People are going this way and people are going this way, and there's rats in the damn corn. So just again, look at things differently, step back and take another look and see if some of this past stuff doesn't help you discern some of the things that are happening now. And imagine how many times do you need to be told that they're going to lie to you and tell you what they want you to think, and like I said earlier, just remember neuro-linguistic manipulation. When you hear things repeated over and over again, it's like a jingle of a song. There's a reason they use jingles and songs, because it sticks with you and you sing it against your will. It is subliminal messaging. Think about the stuff that's going on, whether it's chemical spills and people saying that it's okay that these people can stay there when it's obviously poison and harmful, and going to other places to assist them and not assisting your own people too. Things are amping up. The water's getting hotter. You're going to do just fine. Keep your lights burning. Steve, where can we find you this week?
I don't know that I've got any guest appearances coming up this week, but I've always got something going on missing persons and mysteries, videos premiering. We're trying to do one a day. I've always got stuff going on 13 past midnight, but this weekend, Saturday afternoon, I don't know the time yet, probably around 5 or 6 Mountain Time. I'm having 2 guys come on from Sound the Shofar Messianic Ministries, and they're going to talk about the missing phenomena from a biblical perspective.
Wow. Okay.
Now I had them on 13 past midnight talking about the paranormal from a biblical perspective, and Messianic. They read the Torah.
Thank you, Amelia.
The book of Moses, the first 5 books of the Bible, the law of Moses, or 5 books of the Bible. But they believe that Yeshua, Jesus, is the Messiah. So they're kind of like Jewish Christians.
Love you back, Salvador. Thank you.
But it's going to be an interesting show. And like I said, they really shook things up talking about the paranormal. They talked about UFOs. They talked about CERN. They talked about spiritual warfare. They talked about cryptids. But this is just specifically going to be about the missing from a biblical perspective. And there's people in the Bible that went missing. Elijah was taken up and then put back. And I think
these people being dropped out of the sky, Steve. I think that's all part of it. It's
stuff that you won't hear at your grandma's Baptist church. It's
How many missing cases have you yourself heard?
Oh, I couldn't
where
even
the bones
tell you.
felt like they were dropped from the air and crushed in certain ways, and just the skeleton found, and then the clothes found
They
next
find
to
people,
folded,
and usually in a boulder field that look like they've been dropped from a considerable height, when there is no height there that could have fallen, been pushed, or dropped from. But now the Algonquin have a story of a cryptid that disguises itself as a rock. When somebody unsuspecting passes by, it opens up and swallows you, get whatever it's needed, and then spits you back out. And if something that looked like a rock swallowed you, spit you back out, you might look like you've been dropped from a height. So who knows? There's all kinds of stuff out there.
I mean, there's so much. Listen, there's so much out there that can get you. Just stay home, bake cookies, and and do whatever. Create art, write songs and start a podcast. Stay safe and keep your.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say keep your
the radio vault. Some of you know him as AJK. He's going to be on 13 past midnight Friday night with Bree and myself.
Ooh, cool.
So
Gotta catch that one. Gotta catch that one. And I think you're right, Brian. It's the blood type. Why do they want to know blood types? But then again, you got Laura Eisenhower here saying DNA. There is a gold mine of history in our DNA. And, I don't know that Carl was turned away because of the vasectomy, like they say in the movie. Go see the movie, discern for yourself. You decide. But, for reproductive reasons and things like that. But I certainly don't, fault him for getting one after 7 kids. I guess Carl, he was something else, man. He was the man's man. He went out and worked in the oil fields all day and didn't mind telling the truth and stuck to it. So hail to Carl. And, he may still be out there, Steve. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, so I wish him well tonight and his family and everything that they went through, because imagine being one of these people.
And just show of hands or bacon or here, how many in this chat are RH negative? I am. We tend to gravitate toward one another. And I've also found that the people that aren't RH negative, they tend to have all the traits of an indigo child or a starseed, or you go read all that on Gaia.com. But I'm willing to bet a lot of you here. I know Anella is. There's a few more here.
Yep. And I'll tell you, it's a trip to. It took them in the Army a little while to figure it all out for me. So that's how I found out. There's quite a few people that you'd recognize their names if I said them that are RH negative. It's a trip. I've heard a lot of things, but it's definitely different.
They told me that I had the second rarest type, which is B negative, but actually they found recently there's an even rarer type. It's called RH null, the golden blood. It is neither RH negative nor RH positive. Doesn't have either marker.
Well, that's the first
I've heard of that. There's only about 50 people in the world that have that. Now, what is that? How can you be? It looks like if you weren't RH positive, you would have to be RH negative.
Maybe
but
that's
they don't
what they're
have
looking
the markers
for, Steve. Maybe that's what they're looking for. I don't know.
Strange.
All I know is, be the gray man.
I got alien blood. I'm glad I'm not a monkey blood. No offense to anybody.
be a ghost, keep your eyes open and your head down and your candle burning and your feet under the covers and your closet door shut. Cover all the bases, right, Steve?
As Casey Kasem used to say, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
There you go, because you don't know what's in those stars. It might be one of these mummy
might be aliens or a UFO or a Chinese balloon that's not spying.
I don't know what, but also remember to keep in the art and keep celebrating it, and if you are looking for music for your content, I highly recommend YouTube Audio Library if you're looking for content for videos or whatever. Pixabay and Videasy. Now you can pay for services out there. There's lots of them. Pond 5, God, so many. Stock, what's its name? There's all kinds of different ones and all kinds of different licenses, but there's some for the poor and the ones that are just scraping by, and that's me. And that's Videasy and Pixabay. You can, if it's harder, you gotta want it, but you can get in there and find a lot of great artists.
On there.
Yeah, and I highly recommend that. And go celebrate art. Find a way to do it. I'm going to keep doing this because I think it's uplifting and it makes people laugh. On our way out, I'm going to play the last time. I'm going to play a little bit of this video with the funny Renaissance gifts where the artist has changed him around, and it's the last of our Akash Gandhi, our wonderful composer for this weekend. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Steve, as usual,
Echo
I love
Leaf,
you, my friend.
I was born in call as well. They called it, I was born with a veil over my face.
Yep.
It's just the afterbirth of the amniotic sac.
You don't
but in
have
my
the Reese's monkey
superstitions, Granny's
Go
mind,
figure.
I was a special child. Out of all the grandchildren, I was the only one that was born with that. So
there you go.
It's rare, but it's not totally uncommon.
And it's just you don't
one
have the
in
Reese's
100,000
monkey
or something. And
so
no monkey blood here.
If you don't have it, then where did you come from? And people say anywhere.
Exactly. If the theory of evolution, all that, if we're descended from primates, then everybody would have it. That's my
God bless
thinking
you
on
all.
it.
I'm gonna throw your
All right.
comments up here during the
Love
song
you
and
all.
everything. Love you, Steve. My brother. I'll see you next
Love
Monday.
you
God
too,
knows
Mama
what we'll
Gum.
be
You
talking about.
keep talking the truth, because the truth will set people free.
Yep. Facts don't give a shit about your feelings. I love y'all. Good
Good
night,
night, everybody.
everybody.